Folks, we're going to get ready, say in the next couple of minutes, it's about 2-3 minutes. I'm going to allow some people to join in. Yeah. I'm going to start a couple of minutes. Please bear with me. Yeah. I think a number of people are with us now. This is going to be my final live broadcast for 2017. Yeah. Thank you so much for joining. Thank you so much. I'm just waiting for a couple of people to join us so that we can start. Folks, I'll be speaking English today, and this is deliberate for people who do not understand Yoruba language. I'm a Yoruba citizen. Our indigenous language is Yoruba language, not English. I'm not English, so I see no reason why I should be communicating to people in English. I would rather speak my indigenous language, which is Yoruba. I'm very proud of it. Aside that, I flow naturally speaking Yoruba language, but for today's lecture, I will speak English for the benefit of non-Yoruba who will be joining us later tonight. Tonight, I will be speaking on Yorubaland as the economic backbone of Nigeria. I have always made this claim since 2012, saying that Yoruba produce 49% of the income of Nigeria, and we produce 80% of the gross domestic product of Nigeria. What gross domestic product simply means is that the total money value of all goods and services produced in a country, which is the size of the economy. This is what I've been saying since 2012, until this year when the Minister for Finance, Mrs. Kemi, came out and said that Lagos State alone produces 55% of the VAT of Nigeria, which is actually 60%. And then she also came out and said that Lagos State alone produced 40% of the gross domestic product of Nigeria. Ogun State produced 20% of the gross domestic product of Nigeria. So when you combine Lagos and Ogun, that is 60%. So by the time we had Osun, Oyo State, Ekiti State, Ondo State, part of Kwara, part of Kogi, Akoko Edo in Edo State, Ishekiri in Delta State, and all of that Yoruba land, we're talking about 80% of the gross domestic product of Nigeria. What that simply means is that Yoruba are the engine room of Nigeria. We sustain that country. Without us, there's no Nigeria. So you go to get more details tonight as I speak about this. And then at the end of my lecture, people will have the opportunity to ask questions. And I'm going to give you a telephone line you can call in, and I'm going to read some of your messages as well. So I'm going to start right now. First thing I would like to say is to talk about where does the federal government of Nigeria get money. See, the federal government of Nigeria is just like a tax collector. It doesn't create wealth. It just collects money from the various entities that makes up the country called Nigeria. So The federal government of Nigeria is like a collector. Federal government of Nigeria gets revenue from 7 major sources. These sources are also government agencies, and I'm going to list them as we go along. The first source of revenue of the federal government of Nigeria is the Nigeria National Petroleum. It is called NNPC. The second sources of the revenue of the federal government of Nigeria is the Nigeria Customs Service, NSC. The third one is the Federal Inland Revenue Service. It is called FIRS. Federal Inland Revenue Service collects taxes on behalf of the federal government of Nigeria. So federal government does not collect the taxes, but that is the function of the agency called Federal Inland Revenue Service. And I'm going to list some of the taxes the Federal Inland Revenue Service is collected. Number 1 is the corporate income tax. 2 is the education tax, information technology tax, pension contributions, industrial training fund contributions, national housing fund contributions, employee compensation scheme, petroleum profit tax, capital gain tax, withholding tax, value added tax, stamp duty, and luxury tax. Folks, it was in 2015, immediately Mr. Buhari became president and he was sworn in as the president of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, that he introduced luxury tax on expensive goods, like some of the wines you drink, like some of the private jets owned by the church leaders and politicians in Nigeria. This is a new form of taxation. It's called luxury tax. So that is the number 3 sources of revenue of the federal government of Nigeria, which is simply called the Federal Inland Revenue Service, the agency of the government. Number 4 sources of revenue of the federal government of Nigeria is the Nigerian Port Authority, NPA. Number 5 is the Central Bank of Nigeria, CBN. CBN does generate penny for the federal government. You'll be surprised. Number 6 is the Nigeria Maritime Administration and Safety Agency. It is called NIMASA. This is the 6th agency of the federal government of Nigeria that is collecting revenue for the federal government. And the number 7, not the least, is the Nigeria Liquefied Natural Gas, NLNG. These are the 7 major sources of revenue of the federal government. Like I said, for those who are just joining us, the federal government of Nigeria is like a tax collector. It doesn't add value to our life. It just collects taxes from all the regions in Nigeria, from all the ethnic nationalities in Nigeria, from all the states in Nigeria. That's the responsibility of the federal government. This is one thing, at the end of this lecture, you will see why we need to stop all this the federal government is doing. So these are the 7 major sources of revenue of the federal government of Nigeria. There are other sources of revenue that are minor, like solid minerals, like court fees and fine, licenses fees. These are other sources of revenue as well, but I am not concerned about them tonight because the 7 major sources of revenue that I've listed collected more than 95.9% of the revenue of the federal government. Now we moved on to the next section. Now, I haven't listed these 7 major sources of revenue of the federal government. Then I'm going to address them one after the other. Like I said to you, the number 1 sources of revenue of the federal government is the Nigeria National Petroleum Corporation, NNPC. NNPC collects royalty, rents, and penalties on oil products. That is the function of the NNPC. NNPC collects royalty, rents, and penalties on oil products annually. Now listen to these folks. Annually, NNPC generates on the average about 3 trillion. So you see recently, NNPC will always tell you, and all of these government agencies, they do not declare, or better still, they do not remit the actual amount of revenue they generated. Majority of this, virtually all of these agencies of the federal government, they just remit less than 50% of the actual revenue they collected every year. So NNPC on the average generates around 3 trillion naira every year. And this information I'm about to give you is nothing but fact. I don't want people to be emotional unnecessarily. I don't want people to be emotional. This information I'm about to give about NNPC is a fact. According to the NNPC records, Akwa Ibom State, Delta State, River State, Bayelsa State, and Cross River State, these 5 South states produce 89% of all the crude oil in Nigeria. Are people getting me? This is from NNPC record. According to NNPC record, Akwa Ibom State, Delta State, River State, Bayelsa State, and Cross River State, these 5 South states produce 89% of the crude oil in Nigeria. 89%. Also, from the NNPC records, Ondo and Edo State produce 10% of Nigerian crude oil. Ondo and Edo State produce 10%. Imo and Abia State, and listen, I know some of the Igbos will be emotional about when you say nothing other than fact. They don't want to hear the fact. But this, what I'm saying, is from the NNPC record. It's a statement of fact. Imo and Abia State produce less than 1%. Get this, less than 1% of the crude oil produced in Nigeria. Imo and Abia State. There is nothing, absolutely nothing coming from Anambra State. So these 3 Igbo states collectively produce less than 1% of Nigeria crude oil. According to NNPC record, let me repeat again. Akwa Ibom State, Delta State, River State, Bayelsa State, and Cross River State. These 5 states collectively produce 89% of the crude oil in Nigeria. 89% of the crude oil in Nigeria. Ondo State and Edo State together produce 10% of the crude oil in Nigeria. Imo State, Abia State produce less than 1%. Anambra State, there is absolutely nothing, 0% of crude oil being produced in Anambra State. These are records from the NNPC. Now, having said this, what this implies simply means is that the South-South region contributes 80% of the NNPC revenue. Like I said earlier, NNPC generates on the average around 3 trillion naira. They do not remit all of this money. Sometimes they only remitted about 40% of this revenue. This is as a result of what is going on in Nigeria. Everybody is just corrupt one way or the other. So South-South region alone contributes 80% of the NNPC revenue. The Yoruba region, including Ondo State, plus Ishekiri, part of Delta, because Ishekiri land is Yorubaland. Ondo State plus Ishekiri land together contribute the remaining 20% of the NNPC revenue. So for the 3 trillion naira generated by NNPC annually, the South-South region contributes 80% of this revenue. The Yoruba region contributes 20%. Folks, and I will repeat this and I'll say this again, there is nothing significant coming from Igbo land in terms of oil revenue of the NNPC. Please, I want you to note that there is no single contribution to the NNPC Henny from Hausa Fulani Northwest, Kanuri Northeast, and Middle Belt North Central. Everybody, this is where you have to be very patient. You have to calm down and listen to me attentively. NNPC is #1 sources of revenue of the federal government. This agency of government generates on the average 3 trillion naira every year. Where is this 3 trillion naira coming from? 80% of this 3 trillion naira comes from the South-South region. The remaining 20% comes from Yorubaland. There is no significant contribution from Igbo land. There is 0% contribution from Hausa Fulani land. There is 0% contribution from Kanuri land. There is 0% contribution from the Middle Belt. But the shocking reality is this. Under the sham unitary system we operate in Nigeria, the people who contributed 0% to the NNPC revenue, that is the Hausa Fulani Northwest, the Kanuri Northeast, the Middle Belt North Central, get the lion's share of NNPC revenue. Yoruba youth. If you ask me, what is this? I will tell you nothing other than slavery. Even when the English colonial Turks were colonizing Yorubaland, they were not as ruthless as Fulani are today. They are not as ruthless. So you imagine, you ask yourself, how can Yoruba produce 20% of the 3 trillion naira of the NNPC revenue, but Hausa Fulani that contributes 0% is getting more money from this NNPC revenue than the Yoruba nation? So when you continue to complain that you don't have medical facility for your children, Yoruba people, it is because you have allowed your revenue to fund development in Hausa Fulani land. When you continue to complain that you can't get a job as a graduate, it is because you have allowed your revenue to be controlled by the Hausa Fulani. How can Yoruba contribute 20% of NNPC revenue, but every month when we share this revenue, the Hausa Fulani would get the lion's share in something they contribute 0% to? This is why we have to end this. It is our generation that is going to end this. So, folks, that is the first sources of revenue of the federal government. I am explaining tonight why and how the Yoruba generate 49% of the Nigerian income and 80% of Nigeria GDP. The second sources of revenue of the federal government, like I said, told you, is the Nigerian Customs Service. Nigerian Customs Service collects import and excise duty levied on cost, insurance, and freight. So goods and services that are coming into Nigeria from abroad, we pay custom duty on it. Goods and services that have been produced in Nigeria that have been exported abroad, we pay custom duty on it. So every year, the Nigerian Customs Service generates on the average 2 trillion naira. In 2016, the Nigerian Customs Service claimed that they generated only 850 billion. In 2017, they just released their results saying that they only generated 1 billion naira. But look, this fact and the truth is this. Every year, on the average, the Nigerian Customs Service generates 2 trillion naira. They don't declare it. They don't declare all the money being generated. This is the part of the nonsense we have under the unitary system. If the Yoruba were to be controlling their ports and waterways, all of this money will be declared and go into the coffer of the Oduduwa Republic. But under the unitary system that we practice, Hausa Fulani are everywhere. So they take so much money. They take 2 trillion naira every year from the Nigerian custom. They declare 1 billion. The rest is to fund their lifestyle. The rest is to pay to the Sultan of Sokoto, to the Emir of Kano, to the Emir of this, Yoruba money. So you just relax with me. Just relax with me. You're going to get this far. According to the Nigerian Bureau of Statistics, with the agreement of the Nigerian Customs Service, there are 11 custom commands across Yorubaland, generated 90% of the Nigerian Customs Service's revenue. The Yoruba alone. Please be reminded of the fact that the NNPC revenue I just described a few minutes ago, out of the 3 trillion naira generated by NNPC, South contributed 80% of that 3 trillion. The Yoruba generated 20%. Now I'm talking about the Nigerian Customs Service. On the average, the Nigerian Customs Service generated every year 2 trillion naira. It is not all of that that they declare anyway. Out of this 2 trillion naira, Yoruba alone generate 90% of the Nigerian Customs Service. And where is this Customs Service in Yorubaland? I'm going to name them. Apapa Wharf. Let me give you the figure of what was generated in 2016. I have the figure for 2017, but this figure have not been confirmed yet. Apapa Command generated about 300 billion in 2016. Tinker Command generated 256.4 billion in 2016. Lagos Airport Command generated 40 billion in 2016. Kirikiri Custom Command generated 30 billion in 2016. Seme Command generated 10.5 billion in 2016. Tinker 2 Command generated 8 billion in 2016. Lagos Industrial Command generated 7 billion in 2016. Ogun Command generated about 12 to 15 billion in 2016. Oyo Osun Command generated 14.8 billion in 2016. Ondo Ekiti Command generated 517 million in 2016. Kwara Kogi Command generated 2 billion in 2016. What I'm saying invariably is this. Every year, the Nigerian Custom Service generates, on the average, around 2 trillion naira. Yoruba alone are contributing 90% of that 2 trillion naira. South-South is contributing 5% of that 2 trillion naira. The Hausa Fulani are contributing about 5%. There's nothing that is coming from Yorubaland in terms of the Nigerian Customs Service. Nothing significant is coming from Yorubaland. What is coming from Hausa land is just 5% of the customs revenue. But Yoruba alone, we are producing 90% of the Nigerian Customs Service revenue. But folks, when you get this money down to Abuja every month, the Hausa Fulani that is contributing only 5% of the Nigerian custom revenue will get the lion's share. The Yoruba that is contributing 90% of the Nigerian custom revenue, we don't even get up to 10% in return. So again, what does this signify? It simply means slavery. When the English colonial talks were colonizing our ancestors, they were not as ruthless as Fulani were, or as Fulani are today. The Fulani are so ruthless, they have taken Yoruba to be slave. The English were not even taking our resources the way Fulani are taking our resources in Yorubaland. How can a government agency, the Nigerian Customs Service, generates 2 trillion every year, and 90% of this money is generated in Yorubaland? But when you take this money down to Abuja every month, Hausa Fulani will pick up the lion's share. It doesn't happen anywhere. You see, this kind of treatment can only happen to people who are slaves. But you and I agree that slavery is long gone. But Hausa Fulani are still enslaving the Yoruba nation. So tonight I'm explaining to you why and how the Yoruba alone generate 49% of the income of Nigeria and 80% of the gross domestic product of that country. Folks, we're going to stop this. Nobody should accept this. No one should accept this. So that is it on the Nigerian Customs Service. Now let's move to number 3. And then, folks, I want you to just be patient with me. I will have to explain in details some of these things you don't understand. Right from generation before us, people have erroneously believed that Nigeria is based on oil money. We fund government services on oil money. This is simply erroneous. Oil money only contributes 30% of the revenue of the federal government of Nigeria. The 70% is from non-oil sector. So I'm going to take my time to explain in slow motion, in details for you who are watching me, because some of you are not economists like I am. Some of you study Yoruba, some of you study French, like Pius Adesami. He's got no clue about what I'm saying. Believe you me, he has no clue. He's got a Bachelor of Arts French, Master of Arts French, PhD French. He's got no clue about what I'm saying. He cannot speak for the Yoruba nation. So I'm going to explain to you right now the third sources of revenue of the federal government, which comes from the Federal Inland Revenue Service, FIRS. FIRS collects and administers taxes on behalf of the federal government. So Federal Inland Revenue Service collects and administers taxes on behalf of the federal government. Now let me list. Each year, Federal Inland Revenue generates on the average 8 trillion naira. Like I said to you, all of this money are not remitted to the account of the federal government. Federal Inland Revenue Service generates on the average 8 trillion naira, but not all of this money is declared. So where is this money coming from? This is where you have to be patient with me, folks. You have to be patient with me. Where is this 8 trillion naira of the Federal Inland Revenue Service coming from? Number one is the corporate income tax. Excuse me. Number one, corporate income tax. Number two is education tax. Number three is information technology tax. Number four is the pension contribution. Number five, industrial training fund contributions. Number six, national housing fund contribution. Number seven, employee compensation. Number eight, petroleum profit tax. Number nine, capital gain tax. Number 10, withholding tax. 11, value added tax. 12, stamp duty. And recently introduced number 13, luxury tax. These are the taxes collected by the Federal Inland Revenue on behalf of the federal government of Nigeria. Now, you know all of these taxes. I'm going to tell you, where are these taxes coming from? Are they coming from Hausa land? Are they coming from Yorubaland? Are they coming from Igbo land? These are things you need to know, Yoruba youth. Because for you to get your freedom, you must be enlightened. If you are enlightened, believe you me, nobody will give you nonsense. Nobody will treat you as slaves anymore. It is because our groups, majority of our members are enlightened. That is why we have insisted on Oduduwa Republic organized violence. Tonight, you will reason with me why we need Oduduwa Republic. You will reason with me tonight why we must take back our country from the control of the Hausa Fulani. You will reason with me that tonight on why and how we must make Yorubaland great again. According to the Nigerian Bureau of Statistics, 80% of the Federal Inland Revenue Services revenue comes from Yorubaland. Are you shocked? Don't be shocked, I'm going to tell you. We can't just give you figures without explaining the rationale behind it. 80% of the revenue of the Federal Inland Revenue Services comes from Yorubaland. The North, including the Hausa Fulani Northwest, the Kanuri Northeast, and the Middle Belt North Central, contributes only 12% of the Federal Inland Revenue Service. And I told you earlier that Federal Inland Revenue Service generates on the average every year 8 trillion naira, but they do not remit even 40% of the money. They don't remit it. So this is what they generated. The North as a whole, the three blocks from the North Central, the Hausa Fulani Northwest, the Kanuri Northeast, collectively contribute only 12%, where Yoruba alone is contributing 80%. The South, excluding Ishakiri, and the Southeast together contribute the remaining 8%. And I'm going to explain to you how this is what you need to know now. How? Here is how the Yoruba generate 80% of the Federal Inland Revenue taxes. I'm going to tell you this. All companies registered in Nigeria paid a portion of their profit as company tax is 30% of their profit. Education tax, 2% of their profit. Information technology tax, 1% of company's profit. Pension contribution, 18% of their profit. National Housing Fund contribution, 2.5%. Industrial Training Fund contribution, 1%. Employee Compensation Scheme, 1%. So all companies registered in Nigeria, they must pay a portion of their profit as corporate income tax, education tax, information technology tax, pension contribution, National Housing Fund contribution, Industrial Training Fund contribution, and Employee Compensation Scheme. So all the companies in Nigeria must pay all of this from their profit. Now, we need to understand how much is the portion that the Yoruba are paying. I've simply told you that 80% of the 8 trillion naira generated by the Federal Inland Revenue Services every year comes from Yorubaland. 80%. So that means Hausa Fulani, like I said, only contributing 12%. Now, where is this 80% coming from Yorubaland? This is it. According to Corporate Affairs Commission, what I'm telling you tonight, you can cross-check it on Corporate Affairs Commission's website. It is called CAC. Their head office is at Abuja. They registered all companies in Nigeria. According to CAC, 85% of all companies registered in Nigeria are located within the Yorubaland. Interesting. Let me just quickly tell you this. Why are 85% of companies in Nigeria located in Yorubaland? It's very simple. One, there is natural resources in Yorubaland. Two, there is human resources in Yorubaland. People are going to school. People are acquiring human capital development. So people are very smart across Yorubaland. This is why the companies are there. Third, there is stability in terms of security of life and property. The security of life and property. These three major factors are the reason why we have 85% of all registered companies in Nigeria located in Yorubaland. Raw material, human capital development, security of life and property. The Hausa Fulani youth are not going to school. They would rather go to Islamic study. So there is no human capital development there. The Canary youth are into terrorism. So how many companies want to go there? The Igbo youth are involved in organized crime in the east. And then the Niger Delta youth, they call them militant, but they are actually freedom fighters. Because for far so long, their resources has been used for the benefit of the Hausa Fulani, and the youth are now rising up and are saying, look, we can't take this nonsense anymore. But according to the Corporate Affairs Commission, 85% of all registered companies in Nigeria are located within Yorubaland. Do you know the implication of that? So that means that the Yoruba region of Nigeria is responsible for 85% of company income tax. The Yoruba nation is responsible for 85% of education tax. The Yoruba nation is responsible for 85% of information technology tax paid to the federal government. The Yoruba nation is responsible for 85% of pension contribution. We are responsible for 85% of National Housing Fund contribution. The Yoruba nation is responsible for 85% of Industrial Training Fund contribution. And Yoruba nation is responsible for 85% of Employee Compensation Scheme. We pay 85% of the company income tax in Nigeria. The Yoruba people pay 85% of the education tax. We pay this money. And the Yoruba youth will say we're spending oil money. You're not spending oil money. People are paying tax. And I'm going to show you tonight. And this is what you're going to get to see. Let me now take it one step at a time. What is company income tax? For the benefit of those who do not understand. Yorubaland is responsible for 85% of company income tax paid to the federal government of Nigeria. But Yorubaland economy is not sustainable because the profit paid goes to finance economic growth and development in the north. We pay 85% of income tax, corporate income tax. They will take this money down to Abuja and they will share it according to the number of states, according to the number of local government, and according to population figure. Who has the highest state? Hausa Fulani. Who has the highest local government? Hausa Fulani. Who has more population? Hausa Fulani. Even though the population is fake. But the money is generated by Yoruba people. 85%. You take this money down to Abuja and you give this money, the Hausa Fulani will take lion's share of this money. This is nothing other than slavery. Hausa Fulani are using your corporate income tax to fund their own lifestyle. That is where we pay Sultan of Sokoto. Yoruba money is paying salary of Sultan of Sokoto. It's paying all the governors in Hausa Fulani land. It's paying all their legislation. It's paying all of their politicians. It's paying all of their emir. The money that is generated from Yorubaland. This is nothing other than slavery. Even when the English colonized our ancestors, they were not as ruthless as the Fulani are. That is what they do with your company income tax. I'm going to shock the Yoruba youth, particularly when I talk about the education tax. I have just shown you now, and I've pointed out to you that according to the Corporate Affairs Commission, Corporate Affairs Commission's CAC registers companies in Nigeria. From their record, 85% of all registered companies in Nigeria are located in Yorubaland. And every company registered in Nigeria must pay 2% of their profit as education tax. So folks, 85% of education tax paid in Nigeria is paid by Yoruba people. Yorubaland is responsible for 85% of education tax collected by the federal government. That revenue is enough to fund free education all across Yorubaland, from primary school to high school, secondary school, up to university. If we use that 2% education tax paid by all the companies in Yorubaland to fund education in Yorubaland, our children will go to free school across Yorubaland. Our children will attend free secondary school across Yorubaland. Our children will attend free university across Yorubaland. But the gullibility of the Yoruba youth, they have allowed Hausa Fulani to take that money, that education tax, to take it down to Abuja, and Hausa Fulani will tell you that Hausa will get the lion's share from the money that is generated from Yorubaland. You can't treat any human being like that. We are slaves in Yorubaland. Our leadership, our political leaders, our religious leader, our business leader have destroyed our life. How can they allow Hausa Fulani to take our wealth? And we claim to be the most educated out of Africa. The education tax paid by companies in Yorubaland is enough, is sufficient to fund free education for all in Yorubaland. How did Awolowo do it? It is from these taxes when we practice regional system of government. But since we have been practicing unitary system, Hausa Fulani, you will take your education tax down to Abuja and use it to fund the lifestyle of Hausa Fulani people. They will use it to fund the lifestyle of Hausa Fulani politicians. They will use it to fund the lifestyle of their emir, of their sultan of Sokoto. And you, Yoruba, you open your mouth and claim to be the most educated out of Africa. You are not educated. You are a slave. You are slaves. But my generation is here to stop it, and we will stop it for good, believe you me. One generation come at a time to change the course of history, and it is my generation. It is our generation. So that is what we get from education tax. I'm explaining to you how the Yoruba generate 49% of the income of Nigeria, 80% of the gross domestic product of Nigeria. When you have so much power like that, there is this saying in Yorubaland, "Ento lowo lowo." You have enormous power. Eledumare gave you Atlantic Ocean. Eledumare gave you a shoreline. Eledumare gave you good weather. Eledumare gave us so much, and we traded it because we are afraid to confront Fulani. So we live in penury. We live in poverty. We live in destruction. And we look up to English. We look up to white America. Oftentimes we call them racist. These are people who have shown to the world that they can build civilization. We have a better civilization than the English, but everything has been ruined by the Fulani. Fulani don't have any civilization like the Yoruba do. The governor of Oyo State, Senator Abiola Ajimobi, complained in a video I watched. He was telling Yoruba youth, he was saying it in Yoruba, Ibo leti fẹ́ jẹ́ kí n fi rówó fi sanwó àwọn òṣìṣẹ́, Ibo leti fẹ́ jẹ́ kí n fi rówó fi sanwó àwọn teacher yín ní Lautech. Sarah reporter Omoyele Sowore, because that one is a criminal anyway. He's always taking money from APC, he's taking money from PDP. He lives in America, unable to attain his full human potential. If not for the bullshit he's using his Sarah reporter to do, because he's written nonsense about me anyway, because I dislike him so much. He will have been working in McDonald's in America. Ajimobi said nothing but the truth. He was telling the Yoruba youth that where is he going to get money to fund your education? He's literally telling the Yoruba youth that your money is going to Abuja to fund the lifestyle of Hausa Fulani. If you cannot fight and get back your money, there will not be enough money to fund anything in Yorubaland anymore. So I'm challenging Yoruba youth. Ask yourself, every company registered in Nigeria pays 2% of their profit as education tax. We have 85% of all companies in Nigeria are located in Yorubaland. Yoruba alone, we are paying 85% of education tax. If that money is reinvested into Yoruba education, all of you in Yorubaland will never pay school fees anymore. Your children will go to good school because we will have sufficient income, we will have sufficient money to fund free education. But we cannot fund free education because that money is funding something else in Hausa Fulani land. That money is funding something else in Kanuri land. That money is funding something else in Middle Belt. That money is funding something else in Igbo land. It is Yoruba money. Now let's go to information technology tax. Information technology tax is payable by specified companies with turnover of 100 million above. Any companies in Nigeria that has 100 million turnover and above pays information technology tax. You don't know, that is 1% of their profits. These companies include GSM service provider, service provider, and telecommunication companies, cyber companies, internet providers, pension managers, and pension-related companies, banks and other financial institutions, and insurance companies. These are all the companies that must pay information technology tax as long as they have a turnover of more than 100 million naira. Information technology tax is 1% of their profits. Based on the Corporate Affairs Commission that says that 85% of all registered companies in Nigeria are located in Yorubaland. Yoruba alone, we are paying 85% of information technology tax in Nigeria. Do you know what that money should be used for? That money should have been used to fund our telecommunication in Yorubaland. That money should have been used to provide free internet for all universities and secondary school as well as primary school across Yorubaland. In England, I think they are using 5G now. In China, they are using 5G now. In Japan, they are using 5G now. 5G technology. In America, I believe they must be thinking of using 5G or 6G, if there is anything called that. The information technology tax paid by companies in Yorubaland, the money generated in Yorubaland is enough, is sufficient for us to fund 5G technology across Yorubaland. But we are not funding anything with that because all the money goes to Abuja. Hausa Fulani will sit on top of your money, Yoruba. Shebi, you said it is oil money. So you see yourself, it is not oil money. It is your taxes. Hausa Fulani will sit on that money and use it for the development of Hausa Fulani land. They will use it for the development of Kanuri land. They use it for the development of the Middle Belt. The money is generated from you. If you don't know what is slavery, this is what I'm defining to you. Every company in Yorubaland paid information technology tax, which is 1% of their profit. 1% of their profit. We have nothing to show for it. Our internet is not working in Yorubaland. Our technology is still backward. The money that should be reinvested into the Yoruba economy is taken down to Abuja for the benefit of the Hausa Fulani. That is why Sultan of Sokoto will open his mouth and say rubbish. That is why the Hausa Fulani Emir will open their mouth and say nonsense. That is why Buhari will tell you that he will kill, he will kill, he will kill. Because they control you. Because they see you as slaves. I'm still talking about Federal Inland Revenue Service. I'm talking about the taxes they collected. Don't forget, don't lose focus. The internet connectivity is very poor across Yorubaland because the money that is supposed to be reinvested to build our telecommunication has been taken away to Abuja. We have nothing to show for it. When your companies are paying information technology tax, 1% of their profits every year in, year out, since the suspension of regional government, this money should be reinvested into the Yoruba economy, but it's going to Abuja for the benefit of the Fulani. Then I'm going to talk about pension contribution. It is part of the funding, the taxes collected by the Federal Inland Revenue as well. Pension contribution. All employers in public and private sectors that have 15 or more employees are required under the Pension Act 2014 to participate in a contributory pension scheme in favor of their employees. If you have up to 15 employees working in your company, you must participate in pension contribution. You remember that Hausa man that was arrested, that was reinstated by Buhari, that stole the pension fund contribution. You remember him? He's an Hausa guy. But I'm going to show you tonight that 85% of the pension fund contributions is contributed by the Yoruba people. But Hausa Fulani are put in charge to manage your fund. See your life. You go to America, you abuse white Americans and call them racist. You come to England, you will abuse the English and call them racist. Meanwhile, in your home country, Fulani have taken over all your life. They are managing all your resources. You can't confront Fulani, but you can abuse white Americans and call them racist. You can come to England and call the English racist. You are gullible, Yoruba youth. This is the time for you to wake up. This is the time. 18% of monthly emolument is paid by employer as pension contributions. Again, like I said, 18% of the pension contribution is paid by the Yoruba region into the federal government coffer. But what happened? Retired Yoruba senior citizens cannot take their pension because the pension contribution fund growth and development in the north. Shame on you, Yoruba. Stop saying to the world that you are the most educated out of Africa. You are not. You are just simply slave. Eru. Awolowo said, "Kakakado bale funga mbarika rojukaku." Our generation is not rojukaku. Our generation is going to use chemical and biological weapons. Believe you me. I've been saying this since 2012. Go and read all of my commentaries. Go and read all of my articles. When you liberate your mind, when you are enlightened, you fear nothing. You will change the course of history. My generation will change the course of history. We will get to the Yoruba Republic. Yoruba people paid 85% of pension contribution in Nigeria, but all of the money goes to Abuja to fund the lifestyle of Hausa Fulani. But Yoruba senior citizens, after their retirement, cannot get their pension. They queue up. Some of them die queuing up. And you said you are the most educated out of Africa. You are not the most educated out of Africa, Yoruba. You are gullible, particularly Yoruba youths. So I'm going to go to the next taxes collected by the Federal Inland Revenue Service. It is called Industrial Training Fund Contribution. Most of the youth will get this concept because most of you do industrial attachment. Industrial Training Fund Contribution is applicable to employers with a minimum of 5 employees. If you have 5 employees in your company, that company must pay Industrial Training Fund Contribution. And employers pay 1% of the annual payroll cost to the Industrial Training Fund Contribution. So companies pay 1% of their annual payroll costs to the Industrial Training Fund Contribution being managed by the federal government. And according to the Corporate Affairs Commission, 85% of all companies registered in Nigeria are located in the beautiful Yorubaland. We're going to turn it around to Oduduwa Republic. Believe you me, we will get Oduduwa Republic. It is going to be by force. We're not going to negotiate. So when we do pay 85% of the Industrial Training Fund contribution, how many Yoruba youth today have opportunity to industrial attachment? How many Yoruba youth has opportunity to industrial attachment? Because the money that has been paid by companies to fund your industrial attachment goes to Abuja for the development of Hausa Fulani, for the development of the Kanuri people, for the development of the Middle Belt. Why you suffer? You want to run to America, and you said you want American dream. Where is the Yoruba dream? You want to come to England to change your life, but you cannot confront Fulani. But you come to England, you abuse the English, saying they are not treating you well. They have built their nation. It is now time for you and I to build Yoruba nation, because our nation is not Nigeria. Nigeria was created by the English colonial Turks. You can't do industrial training attachment, but Yoruba fund 85% of the funding for the industrial training fund contribution comes from Yorubaland, but Yoruba are not benefiting it. The next thing is National Housing Fund contribution. It's going to shock you, this one is as well. It will shock you. Its national housing contribution is applicable to Nigerians employee earning a minimum of 3,000 per annum. Anyone that earns 3,000 naira per year must pay National Housing Fund contribution. What is the minimum wage per month? 18,000. By law, everybody must earn that money every month. So everybody working in Yorubaland is paying National Housing Fund contribution. Do you know how much it is? It is 2.5% of your basic salary, which is deducted and remitted into the Federal Mortgage Bank of Nigeria. Do you know what that organization is called? Federal Mortgage Bank of Nigeria. So because 85% of all registered companies in Nigeria are located in Yorubaland, Yoruba is paying 85% of the National Housing Fund contribution. So the Federal Mortgage Bank, every money there, 85% of all the money in the Federal Mortgage Bank belongs to Yoruba people to build housing for us. But they are using it to build houses for Hausa Fulani in the north. Aye Yoruba ti baje. And you open your mouth and say, Owo epo lano, where is the nonsense? Owo epo. Owo epo kole no. These are the taxes collected by the government. And Yoruba are the one paying it. We paid 85% of the National Housing Fund contribution. Yoruba literally go to Lagos. People are sleeping in toilets, Yoruba people. People are sleeping on the bridge. Yet, Yoruba is responsible for 85% of the funding of the Federal Mortgage Bank. Can you go to that Federal Mortgage Bank and get a loan to build a house as Yoruba citizen? No, a Hausa man will get a better opportunity than you, but they are not the one contributing the money. If you go to Federal Mortgage Bank now, who is there? All of the top staff are Hausa Fulani. Yet 85% of the funding belongs to the Yoruba. It's coming from the Yoruba nation. But you can open your mouth and abuse the English. You can open your mouth and abuse white Americans, right? But Hausa Fulani have turned you into nothing other than slaves. You should be ashamed, every Yoruba youth. You should be ashamed and not focus. The next thing I'm going to talk about is the employee compensation scheme. I am still talking about the third sources of income of the federal government, which is Federal Inland Revenue Service. All of the revenue all of the taxes they collected. That's what I'm listing. For you to see how much Yoruba nation is contributing. But nothing to show. The best of our brain are in North America and across Europe, working like slaves. But they will open their mouths and be abusing white people. Whites have built their nation. When are you going to build your own nation, Yoruba? Because you have the same black skin with an Igbo man, with an Hausa man, with a Kanuri man, doesn't make you the same. You don't speak the same language. I speak Yoruba. I'm using English for this lecture alone. That's not my indigenous language. I don't like, as a matter of fact, I do not like to speak English. I'm proud speaking my language. What makes people the same is not the color of their skin, is their culture, is their language, is the norms and value system. Get some education, folks. You need to read. Try and have library. You cannot fight for your freedom when you have no clue in your brain. You can never fight for your freedom. And when you have clue in your brain, you can never be afraid of anything. You will not. I promise you. The young Yoruba for freedom will change the course of history. We are destined to change this. We will change this. Nothing can stop us. Eledumare is behind us. So let's look at employee compensation scheme. It's a levy on employee for any death, injury, disease, or disability arising from or in the course of employment. So as an employee, you pay employee compensation scheme. Sorry. In case you die on the job, you sustain injury, there's a disease or disability arising from working. 1% of employee total monthly payroll is paid into the Nigeria Social Insurance Trust Fund. Did you get that? You work, but you don't know all of this money that you are paying it. So every time Yoruba youth will open their mouth, owó epo lana, owó epo, oil money, and you tell me education, ẹ kàn kó certificate Johnny, kò sí nǹkan kan lágbárí yín, kòròfo. When I started this, what I'm telling you now, Pius Adesomi, who is deceiving you, who is deceiving all the gullible Yoruba, he doesn't have a clue of what I'm saying. I'm an economist. He studied French. There's a huge gap. There's a huge difference between myself and Pius Adesomi. When I'm speaking, believe you me, Pius Adesomi should be jotting down. French ló ṣe nígbà táwọn ẹgbẹ́ ń ṣe medicine, táwọn ẹgbẹ́ ń ṣe law, táwọn ẹgbẹ́ ń ṣe economics. But he will open his mouth and be disorganizing the brain of an average Yoruba youth who have acquired so much education but still gullible. He lives in Canada, but small white English, white French are his bosses. If he's in Yorubaland, perhaps he would have been an HOD of a French department in one of the Yoruba universities, or even a vice chancellor. But he constantly continues to confuse Yoruba. You're speaking nonsense English. He's not proud to speak Yoruba. The premier of China, he can't speak English. Russia president doesn't speak English. The Queen of England doesn't speak Yoruba. You should be proud of your Yoruba language. Continue to disorganize the brain of an average Yoruba youth who are so gullible. They think they are smart, but they're not smart. English are smarter than Yoruba. White Americans are smarter than Yoruba, but we want to change the course of history. We want you to have that consciousness that you must think Yoruba first. Every money paid in Nigeria is paid by the Yoruba, but it is being controlled by the Hausa Fulani. So 1% of employee total monthly payroll is paid into the Nigeria Social Insurance Trust Fund. The Nigerian Social Insurance Trust Fund is essentially to take care of you when you sustain injury, disability, disease, or even death while working. You pay money into that organization. 85%, Yoruba contribute 85% of the funding of the Nigerian Social Insurance Trust Fund. But the fund benefits only the Hausa Fulani and the Yoruba workers who have suffered death, trauma, disease, or disability arising from employment has nothing. They have nothing. Yoruba, you are the one paying 85% of the Nigerian Social Insurance Trust Fund. If we have Oduduwa Republic, that money will be reinvested into the Yoruba economy, but that money goes to Abuja for the benefit of the Hausa Fulani. And you open your mouth and say, oh, not no. Now let me go to other taxes collected by the Federal Inland Revenue Service. Federal Inland Revenue Service. We're still talking about the third sources of revenue of the federal government. I'm just listing all of the taxes collected by the Federal Inland Revenue Services. There's so many. There's so many. Stop saying you're spending oil money. You see? So let's continue. Now, let me re-educate the Yoruba youths. When you hear the word petroleum profit tax, what comes to your mind is that crude oil. You're making a mistake, and I will educate you tonight. See, petroleum profit tax is levied on income of companies engaged in upstream petroleum operation. So, what is upstream petroleum operation? It is companies that are extracting crude oil, like Shell, Total Fina Health, Conoco Oil, Conoco Phillips Oil, Corn Oil, and the rest of them. They extract crude oil. they pay petroleum profit tax. Like I said in the beginning of this lecture, 80% of crude oil we have in Nigeria is from the South. Only 20% is coming from Yorubaland. So these companies that I've listed, Shell, Totafina, Health, Ajib, Conhoy, Konoko, or Phillips, and the rest of them, they have the license to extract crude oil. When they do extract crude oil, they pay what is called petroleum profit tax. These same companies that are operating in the upstream sector, they have companies operating in the downstream sector. Conhoy has Conhoy stations selling and marketing oil products. Total has the same thing. Ajib has the same thing. So when the upstream sector, when they pay the petroleum profit tax, it is passed down to the end user, who are vehicle owners. So recently, about a few months ago, the Statistician General of Nigeria, Dr. Adeyinka, released the data on vehicular in Nigeria. From that data, we obtained that 65% of all registered vehicles in Nigeria are registered within Yorubaland. Do you know what that means? Because the petroleum profit tax paid by the upstream oil company is passed down to their downstream sector's oil company, and they pass this down to the end user, who are vehicle owner. And this data says that, statistics says that 65% of all vehicles in Nigeria are registered in Yorubaland. So Yoruba are paying 65% of petroleum profit tax. We pay 65% of petroleum profit tax. Do you know what that should be used for? It should be used to repair our roads, to build new roads, to build bridges. We pay 65%, but do you see the benefit of that payment? Did you see the benefit of that money? No. The money goes to Abuja for the benefit of the Fulani, for the benefit of their emirs, for the benefit of their sultan, for the benefit of their people. Like I said, when the English were colonizing our ancestors, they were not as ruthless as the Fulani. In fact, they have more sophistication, more civilization than the Fulani. Fulani are just taking all your money. 65% of petroleum profit tax paid in Nigeria comes from Yorubaland. These are money that should be used to build roads and bridges and repair new roads in Yorubaland. But the money is going to Abuja for the benefit of Hausa Fulani. When you go hungry in Yorubaland, America are Americans sending you money to feed yourself? When you are hungry in Yorubaland, when you don't have pipe-borne water, when your children are dying of sanitation-related diseases, how many times has the people in England said that, okay, take this? So tell me, why is your money funding development in Sokoto? Why is your money funding development in Kano? Why is your money Yoruba people? Why is it beneficial to the people of Hausa Fulani land, but not beneficial to you because you are slave? But we have come to end it. My generation is going to end it. We will end it for good. We will end it for the interest of our children and our children yet unborn. So the money we pay, the petroleum profit tax we pay, 65% of it is paid by the Yoruba nation, but it goes to Abuja for the benefit of the Hausa Fulani. Folks, I'm going to take your questions. Just watch me. Write them down. I have a phone. I'm going to open the phone so you speak. I am here to open your mind. By the time I achieve that, collectively together, we will take the organized violence forward. We don't do negotiation. We use violence. And through violence, we'll take it. Because Hausa Fulani will not let go. Because they see you as slave. When you want to free yourself, they will fight. They have the weapon. We have the brain. The brain is not fucking pen. I'm sorry for my language. It's not pen. The brain is for yours to come up with chemical and biological weapons to fight them because they control the Nigerian military. Now let me go to the next tax collected by the Federal Inland Revenue Service. It's called capital gain tax. Capital gain tax is applied on capital gains accruing to any person or company. making a chargeable disposal of assets. I'm speaking too much of grammar. I know folks won't understand what I'm telling you, but I'm going to break it down for you to understand. The capital gain tax is 10%, which is chargeable on assets, including option, debt, incorporeal property, generally any currency other than the Nigerian currency, whatever form of property created by the person disposing it, goodwill, copyright, building, blah, blah, blah. What is simply saying is this. When you have an asset, perhaps you have used it. It could be your vehicle. It could be a property. And you want to sell it. You want to dispose it off. You will pay what is called capital gain tax. Yoruba pay 95% of the capital gain tax in Nigeria. Aside the fact that most of the capital gain tax is paid by companies. Perhaps they bought 10 new vehicles. A company bought 10 new vehicles this year. And after 2 years, they need to dispose it and buy new vehicles. You understand? They pay capital gain tax on it. Because the Corporate Affairs Commission, the agency that registers companies in Nigeria, says that 85% of all registered companies in Nigeria are located in Yorubaland. Yoruba are paying 85% of capital gain tax. But that is not the only thing. There are other businesses who are majorly paying capital gain tax in Yorubaland. So that is why we factor in those businesses and it comes up to 95%. 95% of capital gain tax is paid in Nigeria by the Yoruba people. There's nothing coming from South. Insignificant. There's nothing coming from Hausa Fulani. There's nothing coming from Kanuri. There's nothing coming from Middle Belt, sorry. There's nothing coming from Igbo. When we talk about capital gain tax, 95% of capital gain tax is paid by Yoruba people in Nigeria. The money goes to Abuja because they run a unitary system. You earn all of this money, it's not benefiting your life. Your children are dying every day. Do you know how many Yoruba women that die during childbirth? Are you aware? Are you aware of how many Yoruba children that are dying of malaria fever, typhoid fever? Are you aware of how many Yoruba children that cannot go to school? Are you not ashamed that the spiritual head of Yorubaland, Oni of Ife, Jasilu London, because of lack of medical? Tójú ò bá gba Yorùbá unity, ẹ yé bú òyìnbó mọ́, torí ẹ̀yin gangan fúnra yín ẹ̀ ní lárí. Alanu gbàgà sọ pé òyìnbó wà racist, rí ẹ̀ ti dàrú. Fulani are taking all of your wealth. The Fulani are taking all of your resources for the development of his own homeland. And you are claiming to be the most educated out of Africa. I'm not shaking my head, I'm fighting for my children. My children live in England, but believe you me, they will never attain their full human potential, like when and if they do live in Yorubaland, where they can be anything. My daughter can be a prime minister of Yoruba nation. My son can end up to be one of the best inventor in the world if they live in Yorubaland. People are being frustrated when they live in other people's country. I ask you, why is it that the majority of Yoruba who are fighting for the Oduduwa Republic are based outside? Because they cannot attain their full human potential living in other people's country. I cannot. The very first day I came to this country, I'm aware of that. I have never experienced racism. What I have seen is nothing other than self-preservation. That's why I have to think about Yoruba first. So 95% of capital gain tax paid in Yorubaland is paid in Nigeria is paid by Yoruba people. But where is the money going to benefit Hausa Fulani people? There's what is called withholding tax. Withholding tax is an advance payment of income tax deductible at source on specified transaction. I'm going to explain it in a plain, simple English for you. The tax is applied on dividend, interest, rent, royalty, hire equipment, motor vehicle, plant and machinery, commission, consultancy, technical and management fees, legal fee, audit fee, and other professional fees, building and construction and connected activities, all type of contract and agency arrangement. Do you want to tell me how Hausa Fulani are doing any of this? Who are the people running? You remember what we said in our public course of action. that we are going to revert the name of the Nigerian Stock Exchange back to its original name, Lagos Stock Exchange, because that was the name it was given when it was established in 1960, September 15, 1960. Who are the people trading in stocks and shares? Yoruba people. So when you get your dividends, when you get your interest, blah, 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 you pay withholding tax. 90% of the withholding tax paid to the federal government is paid by the Yoruba people. 90%. And this is running into trillions of naira every year. All the money goes to the federal government, benefiting the Hausa Fulani, not the Yoruba nation, but you are paying it. 90% of withholding tax. When you collect your dividends, you pay tax. When you collect your interest, you pay tax. When you hire a motor vehicle, legal consultancy fee, legal fee, you pay tax. We pay it, the Yoruba people, not Hausa Fulani people, but the money benefit Hausa Fulani people at the expense of the Yoruba nation. If we must fight, white people are not our problem. Fulani are our problem. But we know that Fulani have been propped up by self-serving career politicians in England. That's why in my address to President Trump, I said the Yoruba nation would like to work with Mr. Trump. The Yoruba nation would like to do business with America. We would also like to do business with Russia. We would also like to do business with China. Then let's see how the English will not pay for supporting Fulani who are taking our resources. The next tax collected by the Federal Inland Revenue is very interesting. All of you know, you have an idea about it. You know, the Minister for Finance, she's no longer speaking because she said nothing but the truth. So Hausa Fulani shut her up. Do you know what she said? She said that, look, Lagos alone is generating 55% of the value-added tax. Lagos alone is generating 40% of the gross domestic product of Nigeria. Ogun State is contributing 20% of the gross domestic product of Nigeria. When she said that, Hausa Fulani shut her off. She's not speaking up anymore. Value-added tax is chargeable on supply of taxable goods and services, except items specifically stated as exempt or zero rated. What is the standard of value-added tax? 5%. You remember my video on soft drink? You remember my video on beer? You remember my video on gala? You go and watch it. Or you read the articles. You know how much VAT on beer. Yoruba, we are paying 75 million on VAT on beer for drinking 5 million bottles of beer per day. We pay 50 million naira every day for drinking 10 million bottles of soft drink. On gala alone, we are paying almost 30 million naira a day. VAT on gala. Lagos State, and according to, in 2012, after my research, and I said that Lagos State alone is generating 60% of the value-added tax in Nigeria. But the Minister for Finance said that it is 55%. This senator from the Bayelsa, I don't really like that senator. Ben Mure Bruce. It's nonsense. He made all his wealth in Yorubaland, but he's shouting for Atiku to become president. He has not seen any Yoruba man to be president of Nigeria. This is why we are going to deal with you. We, the young Yoruba, we are thinking like white in America and English in Britain. You gain from us, you benefit from us, you don't respect our political interests, we will treat your fuck up. Forgive my language. We will treat you fuck up because you can't do that to English. You can't do that to white Americans. Ben said recently that Lagos State alone is generating 55% of the VAT in Nigeria, but it's actually 60%. I'm giving you nothing but the legitimate facts. 60%. Lagos State alone contributes more than 60% VAT payment to the federal government. Folks, watching me. The Yoruba State, including Ogun, Osun, Oyo, Ondo, Ekiti, part of Kwara, Kogi, Akoko Edo in Edo State, and a Shekiri in Delta State, collectively contribute 15% of the VAT. So if you had 15 plus 60, that comes to what? 75. The Yoruba region alone contributes 75% of the VAT in Nigeria. The money does not benefit the Yoruba nation, but the money is benefiting Hausa Fulani. Let me cast back to your mind when Senator Oluremi Tinubu, Asiwaju's wife, she canvassed at the National Assembly that just 1% of the contribution of Lagos to VAT should be reinvested back to Lagos. Gambari voted against it. Do you know what happened? Gambari youth constituted themselves into Boko Haram, started killing everybody in the northwest, killing everybody in the northeast, killing everybody in the north central. They want to rebuild that region now. Do you know where they are going to get money? They will be using 3% of the VAT money. Money that is generated from Yorubaland. So folks, you see, when I constantly say that Yoruba are gullible, sorry, I have my facts. You see, I have my facts. One thing I have noticed is that when you are well read, you will not be happy because you will see a lot of problems. You will see a lot of things that makes you unhappy. I am not happy because Yoruba continuously claim to be educated, but all the Yoruba I have seen, they are gullible. They are so gullible. Yoruba will come to other people's country. The moment on batin Kogbe, the moment on batin Wataizi, the moment on batin Fobo, the moment on batin security, their life is okay. No, you don't need to have university education. You don't need to have a master's degree. You don't need to have PhD to do all these mundane jobs. You don't go to school at all if you want to come to England and be doing that rubbish job. But if you have acquired so much education, you need to remain in Yorubaland so that we help to shape that country better than England. But how do we shape it? This is why we're doing all these things we're doing. We're going to shape it, folks. You have to join me because I'm being realistic. We have been taken for granted for far too long. Yoruba contributes 75% of the value-added tax collected in Nigeria. That money goes to Abuja to benefit Hausa Fulani. Senator Remi Tinubu said, use 1% of this money generated by Yoruba for the development of Lagos. Hausa voted against it. After Hausa Fulani children have destroyed the north, they are now looking for money to rebuild the north. They now said that they are going to use 3% of the VAT generated by Yoruba to build northeast. Yoruba youth, you go to America and be abusing white Americans. You come to England and be abusing English. When are you going to have that boldness to speak truth to power, take over your country from the Fulani, declare for Oduduwa Republic, provide for your children's future? Simple. White Americans will not do it for you. The English will not do it for you. Learn from these two. Learn about self-preservation. Think about yourself first. Think about Yoruba first. People. So the VAT you generated doesn't benefit you. That is VAT. Now let me talk about another taxes collected. After this, I'll talk about one more taxes collected and we end that section on the Federal Inland Revenue Service. There's something that is called stamp duty. I'm going to read the jargons and I'm going to simplify it for you for the benefit. I'm an economist, so I understand the concept. So I will come as elementary as possible so that you can get it. Like I said, Pastor Adesomi has no clue of what I'm saying. He has no clue. He studied French. I studied economics. So he has been fooling all the Yoruba youth on social media, writing nonsense to support Gambari. Writing rubbish to think that when you go to America, when you go to Canada, when you come to England, that is when your life is made. Your life can never be made. I'm so sophisticated. People who know me know that I have got first-class brain. But do you think I'm attaining my full human potential living in England? No, they're fucking going to destroy my brain. I will be more successful if I live in Yorubaland. Believe you me, I will attain my full human potential. Since age 15, I've always wanted to change the course of history. If I continue to live in England, I will never be happy. Likewise, all of you that are living abroad. Pastor Adesami is not happy. This guy, this Sahara reporter, he's not happy in America. He's just thanks, if not for his Sahara reporter nonsense junk journalism is using, he would have been just working in McDonald's in America. Who will recognize him? He's a fucking Yoruba man. He will amount to something in Yorubaland, not in America. So let's talk about stamp duty, folks. It's a tax on document evidencing transaction between individuals. All official documents relating to an act to be performed in Nigeria must be stamped. Unstamped documents are generally not admissible as evidence in civil proceeding. So if you have a business agreement with somebody, you don't pay stamp duty on it. If that business goes bust, you can't go to court and win because there's no evidence of that transaction. So every business transaction must be stamped. 90% of stamp duty paid in Nigeria comes through Yorubaland. We are the ones that are paying it. How many Gambari are doing business will be paying stamp duty? The stamp duty they pay alone in Lagos is about 70 to 80% of the whole of Nigeria. But the money goes to Abuja. Abuja will now tell you Hausa Fulani has more state, Hausa Fulani has more local government, Hausa Fulani has more population, so they will get more of the stamp duty paid by the Yoruba. And Yoruba will open their mouth and be abusing white Americans. You open your mouth and be abusing English. You want to go to America to change your life, but you don't know that there's so much wealth in Yorubaland that can make you live a happy life. What is the wealth in England? You will work as security guard. You will wake up in the morning, in the middle of the night, in cold, everything. Nobody will respect you. You get your job. Nobody is going to promote you because you are not white. It is the simple truth. It is not racism. It's self-preservation. They have built their own country. When are we going to build Yorubaland? When are we going to stop Hausa Fulani from taking over our resources? This is why I'm showing you tonight that the Yorubaland is the economic backbone of Nigeria. And it's low. Wherever Yoruba goes to, Hausa should follow us like slave. Igbo should follow us like slave because we have the wealth, but we have allowed barbarians to take charge of every of our life. We are the generation we've been waiting for. We will change the course of history. Believe you me. You don't believe us? We will do it. By the time we shock you, you will know. 90% of stamp duty paid in Nigeria is paid by the Yoruba people. But the money goes to Abuja for the benefit of the Gambari, for the benefit of the Fulani. Nothing substantial is benefiting to Yoruba nation. Now the last one, in terms of the revenue collected by the Federal Inland Revenue, the taxes collected rather by the Federal Inland Revenue, is luxury tax. It was introduced by Mr. Buhari. How many Hausa Fulani are wearing the kind of clothes we wear as Yoruba? How many Hausa Fulani are wearing the kind of research? My own is not an expensive research, by the way. How many Hausa Fulani are drinking that beer you are drinking? That brandy you are drinking? Horrible Yoruba idiots. That brandy, everything you are, that clothing you are wearing. How many Gambari are wearing it? But you pay luxury tax on it. Are you aware that Davido and Wizkid, their combined revenue for the federal government of Nigeria it's more than what the entire Hausa Fulani, Kanuri, Middlebelt are contributing every year. You don't know that. Wealth that should go to fund Yoruba development, to fund Yorubaland, is going to Hausa Fulani. God bless those two guys. And congratulations for winning the best song in Africa and the best international hat. To my boy, let me just say that, to my boy Davido and Whiskey. I love you so much. I want you to do more of Yoruba thing. I'm trying to get across to you guys. So what we have Yoruba national anthem. So I'm trying to call you guys up together. You do it for me free. I just want you to come around and then help us to just make some arrangement and sing the Yoruba national anthem. Please, we have to do it. Think Yoruba guys, It's good. Yeah, they're good folks. They're very interesting. So the luxury good, I'm talking about the luxury. You see, special levy have been introduced on luxury items since 2015. It was Buhari that introduced it. The Yoruba people are yielding 60% of the tax on luxury good. They tax you when you buy private jets. They tax you when you are bringing these luxury goods. Yeah, it is good to tax people, but the money is paid by the Yoruba. It should be for the interest of the Yoruba nation first and foremost, but it's benefiting Hausa Fulani people. This is what I disagree with. This is what I don't like. I want my children to come to Nigeria and go to the best school, but this best school will be funded by the tax generated in Yorubaland. I want your children to have access to qualitative healthcare in Yorubaland, but this will be possible if the taxes generated in Yorubaland is reinvested into Yoruba economy. I don't want to share the Yoruba money with anyone anymore. Americans are not sharing their wealth with us, are they? They are so rich that their country is so developed. England is not sharing their wealth with the Yoruba people. So why should we share our wealth with the Hausa Fulani, with the Kanuri people, with the Igbo? Why? Everybody should be on their own and develop on their own. Yoruba region of Nigeria is responsible for 85% of the federal inland revenue tax collected on behalf of the federal government. Only 12% of the federal inland revenue services earnings comes from the entire north. However, in terms of revenue sharing, the three regions from the north combined together get the lion's share from the federal inland revenue service. Yoruba alone, we are paying 85% of the revenue of the federal inland revenue service. Hausa Fulani, northwest, Kanuri, northeast, Middle Belt, north central, collectively they only pay 12%. But every month when we take this money down to Abuja, the people that are paying 12% will get the lion's share, more than the people, the Yoruba people that is paying 85%. Don't you think that is slavery, guys? This is what is called slavery. Eru ni Yoruba, but our generation is going to end it. We're going to end it. That's why we want to work with the Americans. We want to work with Russia. We want to work with China. We want to work with Brazil. These are our allies. We don't want to work with England because they don't want to work with us. They would rather work with the Fulani. By the time we work with all these people, let us see how they want to continue to work with the Fulani. So I'll go to number 4. Please, guys, don't forget. Let me say it again. There are 7 major sources of revenue of the federal government. 1 is the NNPC. 2 is the Nigerian Customs Service. 3 is the Federal Inland Revenue that I have just explained. So I'm going to number 4. It is called the Nigerian Port Authority. See, anytime I talk about this Nigerian Port Authority, I'm always very unhappy because Adiza Usman, the lady who is in charge of that Nigerian Port Authority, something that belongs to me, something that belongs to Yoruba. She's my age mate. While I sit around my house in England, unable to attain my full human potential, a Fulani woman is controlling my wealth in Yorubaland. I'm not happy. It's controlling my own wealth, the Yoruba wealth, in Yorubaland. And I sit my house down here in a country that I cannot attain my full human potential when there's so much wealth in Yorubaland, but it is being controlled by the Fulani. So let's look at the Nigerian Port Authority. Nigerian Port Authority collects fees paid by concessionaires handling terminal operations in the ports, shipping and harbor dues, and rent from its land, among others. So that is it. Those who operate the Nigerian Port Authority, they pay terminal fees. They pay shipping and harbor dues. They rent the lands out for offices and among others. Each year, Nigerian Port Authority generates on the average 10 trillion naira. They don't remit everything. Perhaps they will only remitted only 40% of that money. Each year, they generate 10 trillion from Apapa Wharf, Tinker Port, Delta Port, Calabar Port, Rivers Port, and Honey Port. 10 trillion. That is what Nigerian Port Authority under Adazi Usman, that Fulani girl. Something a Yoruba should be operating, should be controlling, because it belongs to the Yoruba nation. According to the Nigerian Bureau of Statistics, 90% of the Nigerian Port Authority revenue comes from Yoruba ports and waterways. By the way, 95% of Nigerian waterway belong to Yorubaland, from Lagos to Ogun to Ondo down to Ishekiri land. That is 95% of the Nigerian waterway. It belongs to Yoruba people. Eledumare ló fún wa, kò fún Gàmbàrí. Kò fún Gàmbàrí. But Gàmbàrí ń control ẹ̀ mọ́ yín lọ́wọ́. Nǹkan tó Elédùmarè. Odù tó dá ìwà tó fún àwa ọmọ Yorùbá. Ó ń ṣàǹfààní fún ọmọ Fúlàní. Ó ṣiṣẹ́ fún Yorùbá political leader. Ó ṣiṣẹ́ fún Yorùbá youth. Tó bá ti wà l'Amẹ́ríkà, tó ti ya picture, tó ti rọ́nà tó dá, tó ti rent, tó ti gba hire purchase car, tó ti ń ṣiṣẹ́ ní McDonald pẹ̀lú degree tó ní. Ó ti gbàgbé ìran tó ń bọ̀ lẹ́yìn, kò rántí mọ́. Tó bá ti wà ní London, tó ti ń fọ hospital, tó ti ń ṣe security guard, tó ti ń wa kabúkabú, ó ti gbàgbé ìran Yorùbá tó wà nílẹ̀ Yorùbá tó ń jẹ ìyà burúkú. So gbogbo ara fẹ́ sá kúrò nílẹ̀ Yorùbá káyé wá tó dá. You're not thinking about the future generation that is coming behind you. Stop blaming the politician alone. You escape as a Yoruba citizen. You escape to North America. You escaped across Europe. You stay down there. You'll be fighting white people. You want to have the same right as white people. You have completely forgotten those who cannot escape from that poverty. If you are smart, you blame the politician, saying that the politicians are only interested in money. The moment you escape out of Nigeria, you don't want to remember those who are in Yorubaland any longer. If you are smart, you will help us. You will join us to fight for the freedom of Yoruba nation. You sit in other people's country. If they have been like Yoruba, the white Americans, if they have been like Yoruba, the English, if they have been like Yoruba, do you think their country will be developed? Now that you want to escape and live there, this is the time for you to think like human being. You think about your future. Your future is not about yourself. When you are long gone, your children's future must be secured. Your grandchildren's future must be secured. This is why you have to think like human being. Nigeria Port Authority. 95% of Nigeria waterway belongs to Yoruba nation. Hausa Fulani has no shoreline. Igbo has no shoreline, but they will forever continue to argue against that. But I have to speak truth to power. The port in the South-South region bring forth the balance of 10% of the revenue of the Nigerian Port Authority. There is no single contribution to the Nigerian Port Authority any from the Southeast, because there is no port in Southeast. There is no single contribution to the Nigerian Port Authority any from the North Central, Northeast, and Northwest. The Nigerian Port Authority generates 10 trillion naira every year. Yoruba alone is contributing 90% of that 10 trillion from our ports. 95% of Nigerian waterway belong to the Yoruba people. Eledumare ló fún Yoruba, fún Gàmbàrí. So why is it that Gàmbàrí are the one in charge? Like I said in some of my videos, on some of my lecture, the moment we take over our port, believe you me, we finish Hausa Fulani. We are defeating them. Do you know how many people, how many countries rather, that import goods and services and export goods and services through the Yoruba waterways? The entire northern Nigeria, the Middle Belt, the Hausa Fulani Northwest, the Kanuri Northeast, they import their goods and services and export their goods and services through the Yoruba port. Mali, they do the same. Niger Republic, they do the same. Chad, they do the same. Burkina Faso, they do the same. Do you know how much money we are going to be generating under Oduduwa Republic? That port alone will fund free healthcare in Yorubaland. It will fund free education across Yorubaland. It will fund the infrastructural development across Yorubaland. So why do we have to share that money with the Hausa Fulani, with the Kanuri people? Americans is not sharing their wealth with us. The English are not sharing their wealth with us. Our children have no qualitative healthcare. Our children have no qualitative education. Our children have no housing, but we're not thinking about that. So we allow Hausa Fulani to continue to control our wealth, something God gave to us. There is no contribution from Hausa Fulani, from Kanuri, from Middle Belt, from Igbo to the Nigerian Port Authority. It belongs to the Yoruba people. It is our port. But in terms of revenue share, they will take the 10 trillion to Abuja, in which case Yoruba are contributing 90% of it. South is contributing 10%. But Yoruba that are contributing 90% of the Nigerian Port Authority revenue will get nothing from that money. Hausa Fulani will get the lion's share. Hausa Fulani will get the lion's share, and you spend quality time. Anybody that is white will continue to condemn them, will continue to call them colonialists, will continue to call them racist, will continue to label them. Fulani are taking your wealth. Fulani are taking your wealth. Nigerian Port Authority is a Fulani citizen who is in charge of that port. Something that should be in charge. By the special grace of God, by the special grace of Eledumare, I will take that port in 2018. It is my target, and this is what I have been pleading with our group. We must take that port. The moment we take that port, we have defeated the Fulani. We will give them economic blockade. Let me see how English career, self-serving career English politicians will help them. And we would do business with Mr. Trump. That is it. We would do business with America. We will bring them, although we're going to fucking bomb that place. Forgive my language. We will bomb it before we can take it. And we will bring people, experts from around the world, to come and help us to rebuild it. But when we take it, we rebuild it, it will be secure, and it will be for the interest of the Yoruba nation. We cannot continue like this. We can't. How can Nigerian Port Authority generate 10 trillion every year with 90% of that money being generated within Yorubaland? Yet, by the time this money gets to Abuja, Hausa Fulani will take the lion's share. Are we crazy as a people? Number 5, sources of revenue of the federal government is central bank. So this time around, I'm going to go slow. I'm going to go very, very slow so that you can appreciate certain things I want you to appreciate on this central bank of Nigeria. You'll be shocked. You know, it's another Fulani lady that has been positioned to be the governor. But you will know from my lecture today that 60% of the earning of the Central Bank of Nigeria comes from Yorubaland. I'm going to show you. Central Bank of Nigeria earns interest, that is tax income, by keeping and trading the proceeds from NNPC oil revenue and the Federal Inland Revenue Services income from taxes. So that is how Central Bank of Nigeria generates income. All this NNPC revenue is kept in CBN. All the revenue collected by the Federal Inland Revenue are kept with the CBN. It also collects interest, wait for this, from investing foreign reserves, repatriation of unutilized Dutch auction, interest on Dutch auction accounts by deposit money banks, inward money transfer. I'm going to tell you more about that inward money transfer, and Dutch auction purchases. Agreeing to the Nigerian Bureau of Statistics. Excuse me, man. Agreeing to the Nigerian Bureau of Statistics and Economic Initiative, that's my organization, which I founded a long year ago. 60% of the CBN earnings comes from Yorubaland because of the 8 categories of receipts for the CBN out of the possible 15 sources of income come essentially from the Yorubaland. There are 15 categories of sources of income of the Central Bank of Nigeria. 8 of this category comes essentially from Yorubaland. And I'm going to concentrate on that 8. Number 1 is income from capital inflow that kept Nigerian foreign exchange in check. You see, there's something you mix, folks. It's something you mix. Recently, when they were talking about oil reserve, that 1 billion will be used to fight Boko Haram from the oil reserve. No. See, I'm going to explain something to you. there are some capital inflow from abroad, from investors that are coming to invest into the Nigerian economy. According to the Nigeria Investment Promotion Commission, name this, let me tell you again. Nigeria Investment Promotion Commission. This is an organization, government agency that registers or that keeps tracks of foreign countries that are coming into Nigeria to do business. Now, this is their report. It's very beautiful when I read it. They said that 90% of foreign investors establish their investment in Yorubaland. So when you have foreign investors from North America coming into Nigeria, they establish their businesses in Yorubaland. Foreign investors coming from across Europe, they establish their businesses in Yorubaland. Foreign investors coming from Russia, they come to Yorubaland. Foreign investors coming from China into Nigeria, they establish their business in Yorubaland. So 90% of foreign exchange that is coming into Nigeria comes through the Yorubaland. And this money is kept with CBN. Another one is interest on Dutch auction account held by Deposit Money Bank. CBN report shows that 75% of all bank branches in Nigeria are located in Yorubaland. Do you know what that means? All the banks in Nigeria, their branches, 75% of all their branches are located in Nigeria. So when you have branches, 75% of all bank branches in Nigeria, that means 75% of all savings in Nigeria comes from Yorubaland. So when an Igbo man wants to go and borrow money in the bank, Yoruba are paying 75% of his loan. When an Hausa man goes to the bank to borrow money, it is Yoruba that is paying 75% of his loan. But all of this is not beneficial to us. It is beneficial to the Fulani because they control the CBN. Inward money transfer now. According to the CBN records, 85% of money transfer from abroad comes through Yorubaland. So when you go abroad, you send money home to your bank, to everything, blah, blah, blah. It comes through the Yorubaland. This money is used to sustain the Nigerian economy. It is also from Yorubaland, not from the north. Everything is coming through Yorubaland, but the presidency is controlled by the Gambari Hausa Fulani. The National Assembly is controlled by the Hausa Fulani. The judiciary is controlled by the Hausa Fulani. The Nigerian military is controlled by the Hausa Fulani. The intelligence agency is controlled by the Hausa Fulani. The civil service is controlled by the Hausa Fulani. Yet they are not contributing anything to the Nigerian economy. That's why the Minister for Finance said 40% of Nigeria GDP is from Lagos. 20% of Nigerian gross domestic product is from Ogun. 40 plus 20 is 60. By the time you had Osun Oyo and the rest of Yorubaland, we're talking about 80% of Nigerian gross domestic product coming from Yorubaland. Yet Hausa Fulani and your presidency are controlling your presidency. Hausa Fulani are controlling your military. They are controlling your intelligence. People who contribute next to nothing. And you claim to be the most educated out of Africa. You're not. Nonsense. So these are the money that is being kept with Central Bank. Value-added tax, all the money generated from value-added tax is kept with the CBN. CBN report shows that Lagos State alone account for 60% of the value-added tax payment in Nigeria. The entire Yorubaland is responsible for the payment of 85% of the VAT collected in Nigeria. 75 to 85% of the VAT collected in Nigeria. All this money is kept with the CBN. CBN is trading with this money to earn income. They earn what is called tax income, Yoruba money. But they have put another Fulani, who is my age mate, to be the governor of Central Bank. I'm doing video. I live in England. A Yoruba citizen. Yoruba has the wealth. Fulani are controlling it. I can't attain my full human potential in England. The English won't allow me to attain my full human potential. I never see them as racist. I understand what is self-preservation. Believe you me, we're going to take over what belongs to us. We are the generation that's going to do it. Excuse me. Another income kept with the CBN is the Federal Inland Revenue Tax income. Yoruba region is responsible for 85% of the company's income tax, education tax, like I've explained, information technology tax, pension contribution, national housing fund contribution, industrial training fund contribution, and employee compensation scheme. All the money so collected by Federal Inland Revenue is kept with CBN. CBN trades with that money in order to earn tax income. That was why I said in the beginning of this, talking about the CBN, 60% of the revenue of the CBN comes from Yorubaland. But it is Fulani who are in charge of that agency. Shake my head for the Yoruba youth. But we're going to change it, folks. We will change it. Believe you me, we'll change it. And this is one, again, there is what is called commission reparation of unutilized Dutch auction purchases and mainly carried out in Yorubaland. So these 8 form of income kept with CBN is the reason why 60% of CBN revenue comes from Yorubaland. The remaining 40%, where is it coming from? It's not from Hausa Fulani land. It's not from Kanuri land. It's not from Middle Belt. It's not from Igbo land. It is coming from South. You know why? Because of NNPC's direct sales of crude oil. The money that is generated from that is kept with the CBN. The petroleum profit tax that is initially paid by the oil company operating in the upstream sector before it is passed down to their downstream sector, before it is passed down to the end user, is kept with the CBN. The royalty paid on oil collected by NNPC is kept with the CBN. Penalty from gas flaring, the money so collected is kept with the CBN. So 40% of CBN revenue is generated from the South. There is nothing that Hausa Fulani are contributing to the CBN revenue. There's nothing Kanuri people are contributing. There's nothing Middle Belt is contributing. There's nothing that is coming from Igbo land. Let me quickly say this. As an Igbo man, if you live outside Igbo land, whatever economic activities you participated in is not part of Igbo's contribution. I'm a Yoruba citizen living in England. Every taxes that I pay is to help the English economy, not Yoruba economy. So if you are an Igbo working and living and getting education in Yoruba, your contribution comes under the Yoruba contribution, not Igbo land. So I think to get this straight. So there's nothing that the Hausa Fulani are contributing to CBN contribution. There's nothing the Middle Belt is contributing. There's nothing Kanuri people are contributing. There's nothing the Igbo contributing to the CBN income. Hey, Yoruba are contributing 60% of the CBN earnings. The South side is contributing 40%. I've explained why. But by the time this money gets to Abuja, it benefits the Hausa Fulani, not the Yoruba people. Something they contributed 0% to. They get the lion's share. It's so crazy. And this has been going on since 1966 after the suspension of regional government. It's been going on. So number 6 sources of revenue of the federal government, folks. Number 6 sources of revenue of the federal government is called the Nigeria Maritime Administration and Safety Agency. The Nigeria Maritime Administration and Safety Agency, NIMASA. That is what it is called. NIMASA. NIMASA collect 3% from all vessels coming to do business in Nigeria territorial waters. It's very interesting. So all the ships, all the vessels coming to do business in Nigeria, they pay 3% worth of their goods to NIMASA. NIMASA generates on the average 100 billion naira from Apapa Wharf, Tinker Port, Delta Port, Calabar Port, Rivers Port, and Honest Port. NIMASA. According to the Nigerian Bureau of Statistics, 95% of NIMASA revenue comes from Yorubaland because there is no port in Igbo land. There is no port in Hausa Fulani land. There is no port in Kanuri land. There is no port in Middle Belt. We have port in Yorubaland. So all the vessels that are coming to do business in the Nigerian territorial water and they dock at Yoruba port, they pay 3% of their worth of goods. 95% of NIMASA revenue comes from Yorubaland. Only 5% comes from the South. When we take this 100 billion naira down to Abuja, folks, Hausa Fulani will take the lion's share. They tell you, well, we're going to take the lion's share because we have more states than you. They are the one who created those states for themselves. Well, we have more local government than you. Well, we have more population than you. Yet, they generate zero. Folks, white people did not treat us like this when they colonized us. So every time you continue to blame this English, you continue to abuse white America, but you are ignoring what Fulani are doing to you. Fulani are far worse than the English and white America. Fulani don't even have any civilization to start with. They have not been anywhere. They have not developed any society. They destroy. Yet we have allowed them to constantly control our resources. Nimasa generate on the average about 100 billion naira every year from the Yoruba port. The money goes to Abuja to fund the lifestyle of politicians. So you pick up your certificate and you run away to England. And you get there. The English say, okay, you have PhD in chemistry. You will have to do security. And you said the English are racist. You are stupid. You have allowed Hausa Fulani to destroy your homeland. You have allowed Hausa Fulani to control your resources. You are not blaming English who have built their own country. You go to America, you said, oh, I'm a graduate. I study economics. They tell you, okay, fine. Go and be driving taxi. You say, no, white Americans are racist. They have built their own country. Why don't you want to build Yorubaland too? So that your children can benefit. That is it from Nimasa. The last but not the least is the Nigerian liquefied natural gas. It's called NLNG. LNNG pays dividends and revenue on sales of gas, feed gas. Each year, the Nigerian liquefied natural gas pays on the average 300 billion naira wholly from its Bonny Kingdom facilities in Rivers State. That kingdom alone, that is where they get all the Nigerian liquefied natural gas revenue from Bonny Kingdom. 300 billion every year. This money goes to Abuja. There is no single contribution that is coming from Yorubaland into this 300 billion. No single contribution from Igbo land. Nothing from Hausa land. Nothing from Kanuri land. Nothing from the Middle Belt. The whole 300 billion naira from the Nigeria liquefied natural gas comes from South, and there is one area in particular, the Bonny Kingdom. All of the money will go to Abuja. Hausa Fulani will get the lion's share. They have turned you into slaves. They are turning you into slaves. Folks, that is all about it. I'm going to summarize the whole thing. So when I said to you that the Yoruba contribute 49% of the income of Nigeria, this is why. When I said to you that the South people contribute 44% of the wealth of Nigeria, this is the reason. The Hausa Fulani contribute only 2.5%. The Middle Belt people contribute only 2%. Igbo Eastern region, not whole Eastern region, Igbo land contributes only 1.5%, and Kanuri land contributes only 1% to the Nigerian income. When we talk about the South, there are about 6 major ethnic nationalities within that geopolitical zone. Edo people, Urhobo people, Ishekiri people, Ijo people, Ogoni people, and Efik Ibibio people. Collectively, this ethnic nationality produce 44% of the revenue of the federal government of Nigeria. Yoruba alone, we produce 49% of the wealth of Nigeria. Hausa Fulani are only producing 2.5%, but they get the lion's share every time this money is distributed, is shared in Abuja. Because they have considered you to be slaves. What gives them the power is because they have conquered you by taking over your presidency, your National Assembly, your judiciary, your military, your intelligence agency, and your civil service. So I am going to allow you to call me, but let me summarize what I need to do now, I just need to summarize this so that you appreciate. There are 7 major sources of revenue of the federal government. As you know, number 1 is the NNPC. Number 2 is the Nigerian Customs Services. Number 3 is the Federal Inland Revenue Service. Number 4 is the Nigerian Port Authority. Number 5 is the Central Bank of Nigeria. Number 6 is NIMASA. And number 7 is the Nigerian Liquefied Natural Gas. So the first, which is the NNPC, 80% of the revenue of the NNPC comes from the South-South. The remaining 20% comes from Yorubaland. There is nothing coming from Igbo land, nothing coming from Hausa land, nothing coming from Kanuri land, nothing coming from Middle Belt. But every time when this money gets to Abuja, the people who contributed nothing, Hausa Fulani, will get the lion's share. This is slavery. We are stopping it. The second sources of revenue of the federal government is the Nigerian Customs Service. The Yoruba nation contributes 90% of the Nigerian custom revenue comes from Yoruba nation. 5% of the Nigerian custom revenue comes from the South-South. 5% also come from the Hausa Fulani. But when this money gets to Abuja, Hausa Fulani that is only contributing 5% will end up get the lion's share in money that Yoruba people contribute 90%. This is slavery, folks. This is slavery. In terms of the federal inland revenue earnings from taxes collected in Nigeria, 85% of corporate income tax comes from Yorubaland. 85% of education tax comes from Yorubaland. 85% of information technology tax come from Yorubaland. 85% of pension contributions come from Yorubaland. 85% of industrial training fund contributions come from Yorubaland. 85% of national housing fund contributions come from Yorubaland. 85% of employee compensation schemes comes from Yorubaland. Why is this so? Because according to the Corporate Affairs Commission, the agency of the federal government of Nigeria that is responsible to register all companies in Nigeria, says in their report that 85% of all registered companies in Nigeria are located in Yorubaland. Because of this, all of these taxes that I've mentioned, 85% of it are paid by the Yoruba people. But when all of this money gets to Abuja, the Yoruba people that are paying 85% don't get anything near 8%. But the Fulani that are paying next to nothing gets the lion's share. This is slavery, folks. It's slavery. Again, 65% of petroleum profit tax come from Yorubaland. Because why? Because according to the Nigerian Bureau of Statistics, 65% of all registered vehicles in Nigeria are located in Yorubaland. And because of the petroleum profit tax that has been paid by the upstream oil company has been passed down to their downstream sectors marketing companies, and this in return pass it down to the end user who are vehicles owner. Because Yoruba have 65% of all vehicles in Nigeria, Yoruba are paying 65% of the petroleum profit tax in Nigeria. Yoruba too are also paying 95% of the capital gain tax in Nigeria. We are paying 90% of withholding tax in Nigeria as well. I'm reading the summary. 75% of the value-added tax comes from Yorubaland. Lagos State alone is generating 60%. By the time you had Ogun, Osun, Oyo, Ondo, Ekiti, Kwara, Kogi, Akoko Edo, and Ishekiri, Yoruba alone were paying between 75 to 80% of the value-added tax in Nigeria. But when this money gets to Abuja, horrible Hausa Fulani who pays next to nothing will get the lion's share. Folks, this is slavery. And then we must end it. Stamp duty in Nigeria, 90% of stamp duty is paid by the Yoruba because there's no document. If you want to do any contract or anything, you don't stamp them. It is not tenable in court. And 60% of luxury tax comes from Yorubaland. It's a new tax which was brought to bear in 2015. Yoruba are paying 60% of that tax. When you look at MPA, this is number 4 sources of income, the Nigerian Port Authority. 90% of the Nigerian Port Authority revenue comes from the Yoruba ports and waterways. 10% comes from the South-South region. There is nothing that is coming from the north, the entire north, be it northwest Hausa Fulani, be it northeast Kanuri land, or be it north central Middle Belt. And there is also nothing that is coming to the Nigerian Port Authority from Igbo land. That's a statement of fact. In terms of CBN earning, which is the number 5 sources of revenue of the federal government, 60% of the CBN earnings comes from Yorubaland. 40% of the CBN earning comes from the South-South region. There's nothing from Igbo land, and there's nothing from Hausa land. In terms of Nimasa Heni, 95% of Nimasa Heni comes from the Yoruba port. 5% of Nimasa Heni comes from the South port. And there are no ports in Igbo land, and there are no ports in Hausa land or Kanuri land or Middle Belt. So Nimasa money is essentially coming from Yorubaland. But when this money gets to Abuja, the Hausa Fulani that contribute next to nothing will get the lion's share. And in Nigerian liquefied natural gas, 100% of that revenue comes from the South. Nothing from Yorubaland, nothing from Igbo land, nothing from Hausa land, nothing from Kanuri land, and nothing from the Middle Belt. So this is the summary. And then, folks, there are other sources of income that are minor, like solid minerals. The revenue from solid minerals, like we have solid minerals like talc, dips, iron ore, lead, zinc, vitamins, gold, bitumen, coal, rock, salt, and the rest of them. These are not very significant. And only gold and bitumen, both of which are also mainly in Yorubaland, have contributed essentially to the earning from the solid mineral. But these are not very significant sources of revenue. There are other sources of revenue like personal income tax, which is collected essentially by the states, not by the federal government. So I have not concerned myself about that. Court fees, fine, license fees, and other revenue are too insignificant for this lecture. So I have not taken my time to concern myself about that. Now, from the foregoing, from my calculation and my group calculation, we've done this since 2012. Yoruba nation and our people contribute 49% of Nigerian income. The South region and our people contribute 44% of Nigerian income. The Hausa Fulani contribute 2.5% of Nigerian income. The Middle Belt region contributes 2% of Nigerian income. The Igbo contributes 1.5% to Nigerian income, and the Kanuri land contribute 1% of Nigerian income. Like I said, the South is a conglomerate of 6 ethnic nationalities: Edo, Urobo, Ishekiri, Ijo, Ogoni, and Efik Ibibu. All these nationalities, save Ishekiri, contribute 44% of Nigeria income, because the Ishekiri income, which is essentially oil, has been factored into the 20% of the NNPC contribution that I earlier said comes from Yoruba. That 20% is the combination of Ondo State's crude oil and Ishekiri crude oil. Ishekiri is Yorubaland. There's no contest about that. Yeah. So, in summary, then I would then open my phone for you to call me. So, in summary, folks, Hausa Fulani people are the most corrupt of the ethnic groups in Nigeria. Through manipulation of self-serving career politicians in England, the Fulani held political power in Nigeria between 1960 and 2010, and since 2015, after the inauguration of Mr. Buhari. They replaced the regional system that allows each region to control its wealth and resources with a unitary system that takes resources from Yorubaland and the South to fund the economic growth and development in the North, while Yorubaland remains poor and underdeveloped. Young Yoruba must come together and join forces with the young Yoruba for freedom to take over Yoruba ports and waterways from the control of the Fulani, beginning from 2018, and declare for Oduduwa Republic. This is the only option we have to build a future for ourselves, for our children, and our children's children. There is an urgent need for the young Yoruba to form a relationship with the white in America, with the Russians, with the Chinese, and the Brazilian. The English are not our friends. They have shown this time without number that they will only want to work with the Fulani. And Fulani are not even indigenous to Nigeria. They contribute 0% to the income of Nigeria. They contribute 0% to the GDP of Nigeria. But self-serving career politicians in England would rather work with them, because Fulani are immigrants. They are foreigners. So they can negotiate quickly with this self-serving career politician. But we are given a warning to the English politician. It is not compulsory for you to work with us. We don't even work with us. We don't even want to work with you, because you have never never worked with us. You have always worked with the Fulani. You are aware that the wealth of Nigeria belongs to the Yoruba, but because you believe that you cannot dictate to us, that is the only reason you don't want to work with us. So we are going to work with white Americans. We are going to work with Russia. We are going to work with Brazil, and we are going to work with the Chinese. And we will hope to see how you are going to continue to prop up Fulani who have nothing to offer you. We have more to offer you. So if you want to do business with the Yoruba nation, we are willing to negotiate with you. With the generation we've been waiting for, folks, thank you for your time. I will now take your questions. And then the telephone number I'm going to give is, I'm going to try and write it down for you to see. I'm going to make a comment. The telephone number is plus 447956880135. I'm going to write it down now as part of the comment. I'm going to write it down as part of the comment. Yeah, let me see if I can write it down as part of the comment here. Plus 447956880135 plus 447956880135. So I can open it now. So I see if there's anyone who would like to call in. Yeah, I'll give you my number, and then I'm going to read your. So sorry, I'm going to read your comments right now. Hello? 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 Yeah, Adeyinka speaking. So I can't hear you. Okay, all my analysis, this noise in the background, I think you are in a pub. Yeah, my analysis. Yeah, the caller is trying to ask all of this, my analysis. What exactly am I hoping to get out of all of this? It's very simple. We want the Oduduwa Republic. And then for people to key into Oduduwa Republic, they must know why we are using organized violence. They must know what is in it for them. They must know why we are being treated as slaves by the Fulani. So these are the things I'm just trying to do, because a number of people are not really exposed to what is going on. Yeah, you're talking now. Yeah, I think the internet is not really, the telephone is not really working. People are sending me messages. Yeah. Let me try and mute it. The telephone is not really working. Let me try and meet the telephone, and people are trying to get me, but it's not really working very well. Hello?
Yeah, good evening.
Good evening, sir.
Yeah, how are you, sir?
I'm fine, sir.
I'm calling from Germany. My name is Richard.
Okay, sir.
You mentioned how many ethnic tribes in South? About 7 of them, right?
No, I mentioned the major ethnic groups within the South.
Yeah, you made, but in South, you have also. I'm from South, and I'm an Igbo man from South.
Okay, sir.
And when you talk about, like Delta State, I'm not from Delta State. I'm Ikure and I'm an Igbo.
Yes.
So when you mention South, without mentioning Igbo, I think you are a bit economically with the truth. Don't you think so, sir?
I do agree with you, sir. I do agree. There are Igbo in Delta State, part of the Anioma, and there are Igbo in River State, like the Ekwere you mentioned. But Ekwere is oftentimes for political exigency will say they are not Igbo, but historically, they are Igbo. I believe so much they are Igbo. So if we go by the submission of the Ohaneze Indibo in the Obasanjo National Conference of 2005, if I'm right, they did say that the Igbo in Delta and the Igbo in River should be part of the Igbo geopolitical zone. So forgive me if I have not mentioned the Igbo in Ikwere and in River State and the Igbo in Delta. I was only concerned about the major ethnic groups within the South. And then the Igbo are not major in Delta State. For instance, they are about 5% of the population of Delta State. And if you have to look at Ikwere, the Igbo are about 10 or 5% or 10%. So that is it, sir.
Yeah, exactly. I like what you are doing because Nigeria is unfair to everybody.
Okay.
You understand? Nigeria is unfair to everybody, mostly the southern part of Nigeria.
Okay.
Like as you rightly said about the port, the port being controlled by Hadiza Usman.
Yeah.
I mean, that woman does not, and does not warrant, to have such, political and very strategic position in Nigeria. I think she's very naive for that position. I agree with you. I agree with you almost what you are saying. I'm an Igbo man from River State. And when you say Rivers, there is no water in Igbo land. 60% of River State are Igbos. The Kures are Igbos, and there's water there.
Okay. Can I quickly come into that, sir? Can I quickly come in? You see, I wouldn't want to get into an argument, but 60% of River State being Igbo is a wrong fact. I think Ekwere is not up to 10% of River State by population. And then I did supply a map of the 1953 map and 1959 minority map sometimes ago when I was trying to educate the Igbo that even Port Harcourt, there's no shoreline in Port Harcourt, as it were. I try to explain that. But look, I don't want my argument to boil down to Igbo, because Igbo are always antagonizing me. But me, I am a conservative Yoruba citizen. All I do is about the interest of the Yoruba.
I'm not trying to argue with you. You are doing a good job for people, which is very, very wonderful, because here in Germany, I have lived there almost 30 years. I came here, I was a very young man, and I'm 50 plus now. What you are doing for your people are wonderful. You know what I'm saying?
Okay.
What you are doing for your people is wonderful.
Yeah.
But I want you to please make the whole this thing a reportage, make it very transparent, so that when you are, people will believe you more. Because when you say there's no water in Igbo land, and part of River State is Igbo land, it's not fair. This the creation of Nigeria, the creation of states is just a bit is political anyway, because you have Igbos in everywhere. They push Igbo people to Benue State, to Kogi State. This is it was created by the military. So, and all these things are political. But what you're doing for your people is wonderful. I hope one day that Nigeria will either divided or restructured so that everybody will go back to her region or to his region and develop, the way they want to develop. Because the structure of Nigeria will never take us anywhere. But I am an Igbo man, proud Igbo man from River State, and nobody will take it from us. Thank you very much, and God bless you.
Thank you so much, sir. Thank you. Yeah. That's an Igbo citizen from Germany trying to call and to explain his own side of the argument in respect of Igbo in River State. I'm trying to look at some of the. I'm not going to respond to rubbish views. Hello, sir.
I'm trying to look at some of the. I'm not going to respond to rubbish.
Hello, sir.
Yeah, good evening.
Good evening, sir.
Hello, sir. Yeah, am I speaking with Adeyinka?
Yes, sir. You on to Adeyinka grandson.
Okay, Adeyinka on Facebook Live.
Yes, I'm live now with you. Can you go ahead with your question, sir?
Okay, I have been following your campaign or your platform on past Facebook. Partly, I am convinced. Although I am calling from Finland anyway, let me introduce myself. I'm an Adolite. I'm from Edo State.
Can you tune down the volume of your computer, please?
Okay, thank you. All right, can you hear me now?
Yes, very clearly, sir.
Okay, so I've been following your program and or your campaign.
Okay.
So apparently, I am so much happy that you are on the call because this is what the Nigerian youth generally we are yearning for people to speak out their mind and for people to enlighten one another.
Okay.
So my name is Pedro Clinton. I live in Helsinki, Finland.
Okay.
So what I would ask you right away is that if Nigeria is returned back to the regional government, will you be satisfied rather than campaigning for Nigeria division?
Yeah, thank you so much, sir. You see, we said in August that restructuring is too late. We don't want restructuring anymore. It's never going to work. What we are interested in is Oduduwa Republic. That's why my group is trying to reach out to the President of the United States to canvass for his support, because we're so serious about getting Oduduwa Republic. And what we're going to do is not as if we are releasing our secret. We are going to take over Yoruba port. I won't allow Adiza to continue to control my water. I won't allow her. I won't allow Hausa Fulani to continue to control Yoruba port. We won't take that any longer. We have well-educated Yoruba who can do wonder. So we want to do a Republic, sir.
All right, thank you. One more question.
Thank you so much, sir.
Don't you think that Nigeria? Yes, thank you so much. One more question, sir.
Okay, sir.
Hello.
Hello, sir. I'm here.
Yeah, don't you think that Nigeria has gone far to be divided? We have been together for more than 100 years, and we have intermarried, and we have interdeveloped ourselves economically, religiously, and don't you think that it would be possible to divide Nigeria down to restructure the country?
Okay, thank you very much. Let me just say this: in 1801, the Irish people, through parliamentary measure, decided to join the English, Scottish, and Wales to form the United Kingdom of Great Britain and Ireland. After about 150 or 30 years thereabouts, in 1922, the Irish left and said they were no longer interested. If you look at the whole Roman Empire, all these countries now, Germany, France, Italy, Portugal, England, France, all of them, they broke away from Roman Empire and they were together for donkey years, for centuries. So the problem with Nigeria is this: if you look at it, we are never the same. We will never be the same. It would be better for us to go our separate ways. Look at the whole Indian broke up and then divided into Pakistan and India. Pakistan divided into Pakistan and Bangladesh. So Nigeria is never going to work. We've been talking about killing since Buhari came. When Jonathan was there, Boko Haram were killing people. There was no development because we are not one. We're just fooling ourselves. It is not the color of our skin that makes us the same. It is the culture, it is the norm and value system, and the language. The Yoruba are complaining since Buhari is there. The Igbo are complaining. When Jonathan was there, the Hausa were complaining. We will never be the same. You don't force people together. People negotiate whether they want to be together or not. But in a way whereby Yoruba are making so much wealth and Hausa Fulani are using our wealth, it doesn't all go well.
Yeah, of course, that is very clear. On that point, I understand, but it can never balance in any country that your country will contribute equally.
I agree with you. It can never be. If you look at, for instance, if you look at Britain, the English are about 80% of the population. The Scottish are about just about 5% of the population. So the English dominate them. And the English has more wealth than the Scottish. It is the people who have the more population, it's the people who have the wealth that dominate others. If you look at the United States of America, white are around 75%. Black are only 12%. And the white has the wealth. They dominate all other culture there. And they are the one in power. In Nigeria, the Yoruba are 25% of the total population of Nigeria. We produce 49% of the wealth of Nigeria. We produce 80% of the GDP of Nigeria. Hausa are just 20%. Fulani have 9%. The 9% Fulani are controlling 25% Yoruba. The 9% Fulani who contribute nothing to the economic wealth of Nigeria are in charge of the presidency, they're in charge of the National Assembly, they're in charge of the judiciary, they're in charge of the military, and in charge of intelligence agency. It doesn't happen like that in Britain. It doesn't happen like that in America. So minority does not and cannot dominate majority. The Yoruba are the majority in terms of everything.
I understand you. I understand you, sir. I understand you. It's like you are putting again what I understood from you.
Yeah. That's why I said that it's not going to work like that, sir.
My last contribution is not a question, but it's a recommendation. So I would say that you will have to do a lot of consultation because your campaign and your objective is very huge. Although I cannot tell you that it's not realizable, it is realizable, but the fact is that you have to do a lot of consultation, and you are calling on ordinary Nigerians and to understand your campaign, to understand your objective. But I would say that the real consultation that will give an impact or some impact to your campaign is through consultation. You have to consult all the people that are matter, all the institutions that are matter, all the bodies, all the individuals that are matter.
No, thank you.
Come on social media, it's as if that you are speaking directly to the youth to understand. You are enlightening the youth about the situation in Nigeria. But at least when you engage yourself in different researches, which consultation is one of the researches, then you will know exactly how cumbersome, how huge is the objective. Although it is realizable, it has happened elsewhere before, and it will not stop happening. I pray for you that you are able to proceed in your campaign. So we are young, and I hope that we need something. So I have interest in Nigeria, just like you have interest. Everybody has different interests. I cannot criticize your interest because we are in a kind of dilemma that nobody actually knows what to do about the situation in Nigeria. So no one is happy. We have different reasons to campaign. So you have just shown us your reasons, and we are seeing some points, and the people will also disagree with you. But I advise you not to go against those that disagree with you because you can never be, nobody can be yourself, and you can never be another person.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, sir. I'm very grateful. Thank you so much, sir. Bye, sir. Yeah, there's so much questions that are coming online, and actually wanted to do this for 2 hours. We have overshoot our time, and then people are still calling. Hello. So much call that are coming. People are coming, and I'm reading. Hello, sir. Hello.
Hello.
Hi.
Yeah, please, I'd like to speak to Adeyinka.
Adeyinka speaking, sir.
Okay. Now, I would like to ask. I'm listening presently to your analysis.
Okay, sir.
Number one question I would like to ask: what are the sources of your facts?
Let me answer that. I've quoted my sources. I quoted the Nigerian Bureau of Statistics. I quoted the NMPC record. I quoted the Minister for Finance, and then I quoted the CEO of the Nigeria, Dr. Yemi Kale, was the CEO of Nigeria Bureau of Statistics and Statistics General of Nigeria. So I have my finding from the CBN annual report and accounts, and these are all of the things that we couple together to come up with the analysis I've made tonight.
Okay. Secondly, I don't know what you intend to achieve. You are based in UK here. Why can't you go back to Nigeria and go and take action rather than just talk? You see, if the problem started in Nigeria, what are your facts? Now,
thank you very much. Let me just quickly answer that question, please. Can I answer that question?
It's the same way this guy from Igbo started.
Excuse me, can I ask you that question?
At the end of the day, he left, he ran away. Now, so many people died, so many people lost their lives, so many people lost their property, so many people lost their investment. Now, it's nowhere to be found.
Okay, can I answer that question, please?
Can
I answer that question, please? Can I answer? Let me answer that question, please. He's called, I think it's a Yoruba guy who is not really impressed about himself. He said, why am I not coming to Nigeria? That's a foolish question. Hausa Fulani have taken charge of the presidency. They're in charge of the National Assembly. They're in charge of the judiciary. They're in charge of the Nigerian military. They're in charge of the intelligence agency. They control every facet of our life. And they don't want to give up that power. They don't have the wealth. They don't have the resources. So you are asking me to come to Nigeria so that Hausa Fulani can arrest me. If my Yoruba citizen of Shibajo is the president of Nigeria, I'm saying what I'm saying. I think I will be in charge of MPA. It will never be Adiza that will be there. So Hausa Fulani are in charge of all the military. So that was why Hausa Fulani went to Igbo land to go and kill them. The people who went to Igbo land are not Igbo. The people who went to Igbo land are not Yoruba. They are Hausa Fulani who are armed with weapons. And these weapons were purchased with the resources of the Yoruba nation, with the resources of the Niger Delta. So you're asking me to go and confront Fulani. I'm going to use my brain to confront Fulani. That's why we're going to use chemical and biological weapons. We're not worried about that because Hausa Fulani are in charge of the military. So we will come home and we will use chemical and biological weapons. It's as simple as that. Because Hausa Fulani are in charge of your army. Hausa Fulani are in charge of your police. Hausa Fulani are in charge of your prison. Hausa Fulani are in charge of your custom. Hausa Fulani are in charge of your immigration. Hausa Fulani are in charge of your EFCC. Hausa Fulani control your intelligence. Hausa Fulani control every security agency in Nigeria. You open your mouth and tell me to come to Nigeria. If Yoruba are occupying all the security position, if Yoruba is the Inspector General of Police, if Yoruba is in charge of the army, if Yoruba is in charge of Navy, if Yoruba is the president of Nigeria, I will come to Nigeria and enjoy myself. Hello?
Hello.
Hi. Good evening, sir.
Yeah, this is Benjamin Udofia. I'm from Akwa Ibom.
Okay, sir.
Yeah, please, I want to, first of all, thank you for what you are doing, and I want to praise you for discovering whom you are. The moment you know what is worrying you or what is disturbing you, how do I put it? That is when you can fight the fight. You see, in this issue of, but first of all, I want to correct you in this issue of Igbos out, all this and that. We are all together with the people. Remember that the deputy president of Biafra during Civil War was Philip Effiong from my state. Do you know anything like that? So we're together. Let's just forget about that. But then, I'm not trying to condemn what you are doing.
Okay, let me quickly address what you said. When you said Yoruba and Igbo are together, I completely disagree with you.
No.
Let me say this, sir. Let me say this, sir. Just hold on a second, sir. In 1945, Hausa Fulani started killing the Igbo. They have been killing the Igbo since 1945. They've done so several times. But every time the Igbo are always antagonizing the Yoruba, who have not for once exterminated them. So that is it. When you tell me that the Igbo and the Igbo are not your enemy, I see the Igbo as my enemy, nothing other than that. Because the Igbo, they have never supported the political interests of the Yoruba. The 1959 election is very clear. The 1979 election is very clear. The 1983 election is very clear. The 1993 election is there. The 1999 election is there. The 2003 election, the 2007 election, all of these are there. The Yoruba, for once, we have never killed the Igbo. But in 2015, when Jonathan was there, the Igbo are saying they want to be governor of Lagos State. The Igbo were saying they want to be deputy governor of Lagos State. Can they say that in Kano if they would not be exterminated? So you take Yoruba people for granted. That is why I constantly say that I don't want to work with you. But you are saying that we should work together, which is reasonable and fine. But the political, historical precedence of what the Igbo have been doing does not support that stand. We have never killed you. Are you waiting for the Yoruba to start killing the Igbo in Lagos, for instance, before you start respecting us? I live in England. I can never abuse the Queen of England. I can never abuse her. But the Igbo live in Yorubaland. They will abuse our obas. It doesn't work like that. But I also have been killing you in 2019. In 2019. Okay, let me listen to you now, sir. Go on.
Okay, what I'm trying to say is that, before you can solve any problem, you have to put, you have to put in some sacrifice. You have to put so many things behind. There's no way you can be doing something and then you will see people that will oppose it. You understand? Actually, that country, the way it is going, nobody is happy about it. We need to, everybody needs to find their way. If we are dividing, let Oduduwa go, let Biafra go, then let the Hausa go. Because what they are doing is not benefiting anybody. They are really not contributing anything. Okay, look at Hausa, Fulani, all this and that. The other time they were talking of grazing land, putting on grazing land all over the country and that, things like that. And look at how they are killing people. Look at how they are using our resources anyhow. Look at the government. Look at everything. The whole tangible posts are in their hands. All these things are not agreeing well because people are suffering. Look at what is going on in that country. We need separation. You understand? But then we don't have to blame anybody because what has happened has already happened. You understand? We need to forge ahead and then let us find our separate ways and then everybody will be, we go on this our own way. We don't need these answers anymore. I need to thank you very much for your stand because if you don't come up if you don't start something, there's no way there's no way the solution can come up without somebody getting up and then do something about it. You need, what I want to advise you to do is try to consult people that need to be consulted. You understand? Try to go to your people. Talk to people that need to be talked to. Then you try to get people along with you. Then let's fight this fight, and then everybody will press and then go.
Thank you very much, sir. Let me quickly address that. The fight is very simple. If you must have a relationship with somebody, that person must be very, very honest. If you must have a relationship with them. One thing I've always been telling the Igbo is this: stop antagonizing the Yoruba nation. We know one thing: you benefited more living in our homeland. I'm an in-law to an Igbo, but personal relationship is separate from national interest. I'm a Yoruba citizen first and foremost, and I'm also a conservative Yoruba. I think Yoruba first. My niece, her name is Amaka. I love her so much. But I don't want to have a relationship, working relationship with the Igbo when the Igbo are not being honest. When they are not being honest. Hausa Fulani are killing you. Now the Igbo are coming out to be drumming support for Atiku. Why are they not supporting Fayoshe? Why are they not even supporting Femi Fani-Kayode? Is Buhari as intelligent as Femi Fani-Kayode? Why is the Igbo are not even saying, okay, we are going to give it to Yoruba now. Let's make Tinubu the president of Nigeria and confront Hausa Fulani? No, this is so simple.
Oh, okay, excuse me, let me come in here. Do you know that when, in terms of that area, I think I watched somewhere, because I'm not in Nigeria anyway, I watched somewhere when, is it the governor of Ekiti State, how do they call him? Fayose. There was a day he went during this Modi, Kano, something, I think they were embracing him. You understand? So all these things, we need to, get all those rubbish out of our back. No matter how they do, let's just forget about that and then move ahead, you know. Fight your own fight, then we will be fighting in our own. And then another thing I want to advise you is all this chemical punish, all this and that. Whatever you want to do, let it be in your mind first.
No, you're wrong. Okay, thank you so much. So this is not the strategy civilized people use. This is not. We're waking up the Yoruba youth. And then one thing that is very paramount with the Yoruba nation is this. It takes time for us to take action. We're waking up the Yoruba youth. The intention that what we're going to do, and everybody is focusing attention on me, and I keep telling them that my deputy is more determined than I am. And I keep saying to the people, and I want the Yoruba youth to know this, we will take over a Papa Wolf. That is our main target. The Hausa Fulani can go there. Hausa Fulani can go there and put English pie there. We don't care. It is on our soil. We will take over what belongs to us. Thank you so much, sir. Yeah, and God bless you.
What I really want is whatever you know it belongs to you, need to take it. Let them go. Let them go to their own decision. Then in our own place, whatever belongs to us, we have to take it. Let everybody go.
Thank you. Thank you so much, sir. Thank you. Folks, it's been, I have so many mixed calls. I thought we're going to do this and round it up. Let me just take some few more calls because so many people are calling and then I have several missed calls. I can take voice messages now. And please let him answer. What do you want me to answer? Yes, we don't have interest in Nigeria anymore. It's good. Okay, the caller is an Aboki agent. And the people are just expressing themselves. So I think I should. So let me. Hello, good evening. Hello, good evening, sir.
Hello, good evening.
Good evening, sir.
Mr. Adeyinka.
Yes, sir.
Good evening. Nice to speak to you. I'm speaking from Germany. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir. I can hear you clearly, sir. Go ahead, sir.
Okay. First of all, I congratulate you for the good job you are doing. And what I want to contribute is just simple. You know, I'm an Igbo man and I live here in Germany. And we, the Igbos, we want separation
Okay,
from
sir.
this entity, Nigeria, and we want that whatever has happened in the past should be forgotten. Let us work and make sure that the country is separated so that everybody will go a separate way. And I think that will be the best thing. So please focus your platform to campaign for the separation of the country. So that anything we the Igbos can do, let us do it so that every entity will go a separate way. And I think we shouldn't blame one another. We the Igbos have fought wars. We have fought in the past to see that we go our separate way. But the Yorubas have not supported us in that quest. Those days, they don't forget about those blame games. Please focus your attention that we are ready to support you, the Yorubas, to make sure that we go our separate way. If I don't want to be with Yorubas, forget about we are everywhere in Lagos, in the north, and all over the world. We want our platform, and we are ready to do everything to help you in Yoruba to actualize this. So thank you very much.
Thank you so much, sir. I'm very grateful. We hope we work together. Yeah, folks, let me just quickly say this. There's so many people who would like to call me now. I'm going to take another call. Folks, let me take this. Let me appeal to the Yoruba. There is this man called Dr. Yemi Kale. He loves to dress like Hausa Fulani. He is the Statistician General of the Federation and the CEO of the Nigerian National Bureau of Statistics, Dr. Yemi Kale. I have been challenging him since 2016 to release for us the contribution of each state and region to the Federation Account Allocation Committee. Every month, it tells the world, and particularly Nigerians, how much each state gets as monthly allocation from the federal government, from the Federation Account Allocation. But he has never, and he has refused to disclose how much each state contributes to that allocation. He is the Statistician General of the Federation and the CEO of the Nigerian National Bureau of Statistics. He has the figure. He dresses like Gambari, and he knows that this money belongs to the Yoruba nation. But he's unwilling to give us this data. We have to struggle on our own to try and generate this data on our own. He has everything in his computer in his office. So we are appealing to challenge him. We want every young Yoruba to ask Dr. Yemi Kale. He's on Twitter. Ask him, how much is each state contributing to the Federal Allocation Account Committee every month? It tells us only how much each state is collecting from the federal government every month. He has never told us. There was a research he released, in which case a local government in Kano, that local government in Kano get more money than Apapa local government. Yet, Apapa local government alone contributes more revenue to the federal government account than all the entire Hausa Fulani state and their 419 local government. Let me quickly take this call. Hello? Hello, good evening, sir.
Good evening. Is this Adeyinka grandson?
Yes, sir.
Huh?
Yes, sir. Yes, Adeyinka grandson.
Okay, are you live now on Facebook? And what do you
Yeah, people are watching me. I'm live now, sir.
Good evening.
Good evening, sir.
Okay, my name is Frank. I'm calling from Lagos, Nigeria.
Okay, sir.
Okay. Yeah, we have to look at the foundation of how Nigeria came to be.
Okay.
Yeah. Hello, are you hearing me?
I can hear you, sir. Go ahead, please.
Yeah, the foundation, how Nigeria was even formed is fraud. You don't bring people like you said of diverse culture, diverse beliefs, diverse value system, and force them into a contraction. Nigeria was formed by a man called Lord
Yeah.
who has been used by the British in India and in some other countries in Bangladesh to suppress the minority. And this same man was brought to Nigeria. And in 1914, after a rump of sex between Lord Lugard and the so-called Reverend, Lord Lugard is a Freemason man, is an occultist man, and who is a friend to the Hausa Fulani. And he decided, and the girl after the sex has said, let's call this construction called Nigeria. You do not force people into a nation. They negotiate their sovereignty and they negotiate their nationhood. Nigeria is not a nation. A nation is not bound by boundaries and by languages and by tradition and by culture. But in the case of Nigeria, there is a clear difference. Even Lord Lugard said that Nigeria is like the north and the south is like oil and water that cannot mix.
Yes, sir.
I'm a science student. And I have a good background in chemistry. You cannot mix acid and water. There will be an explosion. The value system is different. But please, what do we do to generation? I look at Nigeria angry. I'm wondering what will I tell my children. Let's look for a way to end this thing so that our generation, our children will not suffer the same thing. I read geology in school. I served in NMPC in Lagos, nothing. Fulani friends who did service together. They are all working in NMBC, LNG, DPR. Most of them did not write any test. How did they do any interview? They don't give them appointment letter from the HR. Now, no drop of oil comes from the north. The Niger Delta has suffered so much. I'm not from that region, though. But I have gone there on a field trip. And in Ogoni alone, most men from the age of 40 and above suffer prostate problems as a result of oil spillage on their land. And anybody who is a good soil chemist will tell you that anywhere you find oil, that crops cannot grow there. The injustice is too much. There will be an implosion very soon in Nigeria. Even the Hausa Fulani and the others cannot stop. So one thing is, I'm Igbo, you are Yoruba, I know. But then we have a common goal, or we have a common enemy, which is the Hausa Fulani.
Yeah, thank you so much, sir. I'm trying to round up the program now because it's almost 10 o'clock, 10 p.m. here. I'm so sorry. I appreciate what you have said. I will address it now. Thank you, sir. Folks, I think I will have to round it up here now. I've got so many missed calls. I'm so sorry to all the people that are trying to call me who cannot get. I'm so sorry. I do appreciate your dedication to come and watch me live most of the time. Thank you so much. And thank you, my last caller. I don't know your name. I'm very bad at that. Let me just address the people who are asking me to come down to Nigeria. I live in England, and then as you may well know, the English always support the Fulani. So I understand the implication of what I'm saying, but there is a beauty of freedom of speech for people to speak about their mind, their state of mind, which I'm taking advantage of, which I'm doing. But for you to say to me to come to Nigeria, you are literally telling me that you are not happy with what I'm doing. That's number one. So you know that if I come to Nigeria, Gambari will arrest me. Why? Because Buhari, a Fulani, is the president of Nigeria. Mr. Buhari, a Fulani, is the chairman of the Council of States. Arab Yadam is the National Intelligence Agency. The Department of State for Security is controlled by another Fulani, the Mama Daura. The Defense Intelligence Agency is headed by Vice Marshal M.S. Usmar, also a Fulani. The Ministry of Internal Affairs is controlled by Dambazu, Abdurrahman Dambazu, a Fulani. You're asking me to come to Nigeria and meet all of these Fulani that are controlling everything. And the Nigerian police force is led by Ibrahim Idris, a Fulani. Nigerian army is led by Tuko Buranta, a Fulani. And the prison is led by Fulani. The custom is led by Fulani. Immigration is led by Fulani. Prison by Fulani. You are stupid, all of you that are telling me to come to Nigeria. You put Yoruba in all of this. I will take over that Apapa, believe you me. But you know Fulani are there because they control your military. So when you say to me, come to Nigeria, you are literally saying that you are unhappy with what I'm doing. That's what you're saying. I believe one thing. The Yoruba nation will declare for Oduduwa Republic, and we're going to take Yorubaland out of Nigeria. That is going to happen. You continue to underestimate the capability of the young Yoruba. We've been to the best school in the world. We are now working to change the course of history. You open your mouth and asking me, you make Yoruba man the president of Nigeria. You make Yoruba man to head the army. Let a Yoruba man head the police. Let the Yoruba man be the DSS, be in charge of DSS. Put Yoruba man in charge of a papa of like what I want that job desperately, believe you me. We've been working on that. I want that job. I want that position because it's Yoruba water and it belongs to us. Put Yoruba in all of the Nigerian military, to head all of the Nigerian military and intelligence agency, and you then say to me, come to Nigeria. You are foolish. The people who went to Abia and killed the Igbo were all Fulani people. The funding for the Nigerian military is paid for by the Yoruba money and South money. And you're telling me to come to Nigeria, idiot, when Hausa Fulani are controlling all your life. We will come to Nigeria with chemical and biological weapons. But you ordinary Ebola, you are all scared, right? You're running escalator. Your pastor cannot even shake his church member. Ordinary Ebola. Don't you know that people produce that in a laboratory? Hausa Fulani are controlling the police, they are controlling the army, they are controlling the navy, they are controlling the DSS, they are controlling UFCC. They are controlling your port. They are controlling your waterways. They are controlling everything. So how do I confront them? My brain power. And that is chemical and biological weapon. Folks, thank you so much. I think I've done a very good job to tell the Yoruba nation that we produce 49% of the income of Nigeria. We produce 80% of the GDP of Nigeria. What that simply means is that the economic of Nigeria is produced by the Yoruba people. If you have so much power to produce all of that, why are you allowing idiot Fulani to be in charge of your presidency? Why are you allowing people who contribute nothing to control your National Assembly? Why are you allowing Fulani to control your judiciary? Don't you understand the implication of all of this? Why are you allowing the Fulani to control your military? Military that is being funded by the Yoruba money. Why are you allowing them? Let me take this call. Hello? Yeah. Why are you allowing them? An idiot will open his mouth and say grandson should come to Nigeria. Make Oshibajo the president of Nigeria. Believe you me, I'm going to get the best job in that country. And I want to control our Papa off. That's something I so desire. When I say controlling, I want to take it over. You remember the 4 Yoruba youths who took during June 12th, who hijacked a plane? You remember? Remember? We will take over Apapa War because it belongs to the Yoruba nation. The moment we take over our port and water, we will do economic blockade. We will blockade Hausa Fulani. You won't be able to take anything. All of the money you've been taking that belongs to Nigeria, you will away. So, folks, I want to wish you Happy New Year, and I want to appeal to you, all young Yoruba. Please, you have to join Young Yoruba for Freedom. You can go onto our website, www.youngyorubaforfreedom.org, to read about what I've been writing, to watch some of my videos. You can sign on to my Yahoo YouTube account, because so many people have signed on into my YouTube account. They're asking me to do a live video because they want to. Well, majority of the people there are Yoruba in America anyway. So you can go on to my personal page and try to watch some of my video. 2018, we just want to take over our ports. Believe you me, we will take it over by the special grace of Eledumare. Thank you so much. Eledumare Agbiwa. Ashe, thank you. Good night.